man, I was gonna have like a new. What was the new bit to the intro?
Was it going to be tell your friends?
I had a new addendum to that, but now I can't remember what it is. Oh well, can't wait forever. Tell your friends you're listening to the Verhoeven Effect podcast. I'm Colin.
And I'm Nathan.
We have another very special episode. We have the 1995 movie Heat. Nathan, do you have a history of the movie Heat?
I watched this movie. I rented this, and it was two VHS cassettes when you rented it
Oh, okay.
because it was double long. So I remember renting this and watching it. Um, and I think I was late returning it because I watched it like four times in a row. 'Cause I thought, well, this is amazing. I've never seen a movie like this before. Because I just thought it was going to be like, I mean, I knew Al Pacino and De Niro had never been in a movie before,
Well, they technically have. They just haven't been in the same scene
or
together.
the same scene.
Because they were in Godfather Part 2, but Robert De Niro's part is in the past, and Al Pacino's part's in the present. So
But other than that, I didn't know much about it.
yeah.
I think I knew the guy that was going to play Batman was also in it. And I remember watching it and like, oh, this is amazing. This is one of the movies that made me think I wanted to live in California. Like, it's like, this looks like a cool place. There's lots of good stuff going on. Looks beautiful, and not the bank robbery, but it's just like, oh, this looks like a cool place.
Yeah.
It has a great soundtrack.
Yeah.
Um,
I'm not sure if early use of Moby or just like Moby was in the universe at that time.
yeah, because what was his big thing? The God moving over the face of the waters, like the end credit
Yeah.
thing.
And then he also has there's one in the middle where he has like a cover of Joy Division's like False Dawn? I think that's it.
Yeah,
Which I didn't realize until watching this movie and seeing the trivia. It's like, oh, that's where I recognize that tune from, because it's such a simple tune. I was like, huh, does he get credit for this? And I guess not. So. Oh, Joy Division.
no, it's a different era of soundtracks.
I mean, he did a cover of it, and it's, um, I don't know. It's kind of yeah. No, it's like I don't know. Yeah, I didn't A/B comparison. So, but hey,
Okay.
is there? So did you like? Would you want to see this in theaters, or you just ended up seeing it on VHS?
I just ended up seeing it on VHS
Okay.
because I think I was working overnights then, so I was just like,
Okay.
yeah, all day is open, and I get home from work at midnight, and you're just like, you're not going to sleep,
Yeah.
working for 10 hours or
Well,
whatever.
well, I was just wondering, like, if you remember anything about like the meat, like, what was the lead up to the release of this movie? Do you remember like even the release of it or anything?
No,
Okay.
I don't. It
Yeah,
has
me neither.
no
Like,
resonance for
this is
me.
like a movie I've seen like 8 times on USA, like like in the afternoon, like so.
Yeah, I think I actually bought this.
Yeah.
I think I bought the VHS cassette copy of this.
Yeah, I remember also like Casino was like a double VHS one too, so just a lot of Robert De Niro double VHS.
Yeah.
Is that and the Titanic one too? I remember that. Yeah, because while I loaded this up, I was like kind of balked at how long was this? Was this like 2 hours? Yeah, 2 hours and 50 minutes. I was like, is this a director's cut or something? It's like, no, this is what they released.
Yeah, that's release link. Yeah.
Because I remember we were talking about how like it seemed like in the '80s movies were very they were like 90 minutes and we're done. And we're talking about '90s and like how they kind of like maybe increase the time a little bit, but they're kind of they aren't getting indulgent to how like movies are now to 3 hour runtimes. But no, this was an indulgent near 3 hour runtime movie. So especially kind of way different because usually all the indulgent 3 hour runtime movies are all just kind of like historical dramas. So this is very different.
Yeah, this is very I don't know. I remember reading at the time about it, like going back in time, people were like, this is a very indulgent movie that Michael Mann made.
Yeah.
And it's like I never felt that way. I thought, well, this is 3 hours of a pretty cool movie. even back then, before I wasn't even thinking about movies really. I was just like, I want to be entertained.
Yeah.
And this was like every shot, everything in this was really amazing. Some
Um,
of the dialogue was weirder than I remembered upon this recent viewing. Um,
oh, it's just like Al Pacino talking about she's got a big ass.
well, not only that's of course stands out, but also Robert De Niro and the love interest to him, and he's reading a book about metallurgy, and
Yeah.
she's like asking him about that, and he's like, "What business of yours is it that I'm reading?" And she's immediately intrigued by that, and it's like, "No, this guy's an asshole." I don't think anyone would be like, "Yeah, this guy, this is the one. He's dangerous. He's in control. He just told me to screw off. I want to know more about him." It's like a weird way to start a relationship.
Yeah. Oh, also she's somehow like living in LA, like being like a graphic designer from like the South. So,
Yeah.
and then she seems to also have like a beach house that's kind of cluttery but seems to be fine. But
Yeah, this like I said, this movie made me was like, I should live in Los Angeles. It's easily affordable. Look.
yeah, especially her house. It basically just has the like the pre Blade Runner overlook of LA.
It's like, yeah, anyone could do this, right? Then you find out, no, not then, especially not now.
No,
But
not yeah.
not even then was it possible to live like that. That's movie magic.
I guess. Well, I mean, there are ways to live. Because I know there's like people that live in LA now that's like, you don't have a job that can let you afford to live in LA. It's like, oh no, but I lived in a loft apartment. It's like, still. And it's like, I guess there's a lot of like, I'm not sure if industrial is the word, but like repurposed buildings for like housing that you wouldn't expect. And because they're repurposed, they have like real low, like,
Yeah,
rent
it's like
for LA.
50 units in them or something.
Yeah. Well, they still have like a loft apartment. Like they just basically have
Yeah.
like this, this floor to themselves. But it's like,
No, how you live like that in LA now is, have you seen the movie, what's it called? Nightcrawler?
yeah,
Jake Gyllenhaal. Okay, that's how people who can't afford. Remember his apartment? Yeah,
no,
that's
no.
oh, it was terrible. It was like the most. Well, also he was a sociopath, so there was no touches inside it.
Yeah,
Just a room with a laptop computer that he looked at things on and just slept in a bed.
yeah,
I was a completely, he was a sociopath. He had
yeah.
no. But yeah, it was a really cheap looking place, and it's like, yeah, that's how you live there if you don't make a lot of money. And and you become this completely dehumanized monster that makes human suffering into an art form.
um, but yeah, I don't know. When do you think you became aware of Michael Mann? Did you know of him like during the Miami Vice days, or is this one of your?
Yes, I remember this was a Miami Vice guy. I remember because I
Okay.
was really into Miami Vice as a kid. I not necessarily the directors, but more the actors as a kid.
Yeah.
But I did know, like, oh yeah, Michael Mann was responsible for a lot of that. So it's like, yeah, this is just a continuation of that cool.
Well, as everybody knows, this is a remake.
Yes.
So Michael Mann himself made this movie before he made this movie.
Yes.
It was a TV movie that was supposed to be basically another Miami Vice called
Yep.
LA Takedown. And it is exactly this movie, just this movie has a way better cast and a bit more patience to it because it's got a near 3 hour runtime.
Yeah, I was listening to a guy who did this thing on, I think it was on YouTube, where he just did a scene by scene breakdown. And it's just like, oh yeah, the cast and the script are so far ahead in Heat, the movie.
Yeah.
But it's also like, yeah, not only did the TV show look cheap, but the actors looked like they didn't know what they were doing half the time. It seemed very rushed and strange.
Oh yeah, because it was shot on a TV schedule too, so it was like they had 3 weeks to shoot the movie, and they still had that opening. They had that opening heist scene where they knock over the truck. Over that, they use a garbage truck with some forklifts on the front of it.
Yeah.
Where here they use like what is it, like a semi that it's like a semi
truck wrecker essentially.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then they do have the big bank shootout, which it is kind of similar to this. Although the weird thing I found out there is like the main character is like, Actually, I think it's like the only cast I remember is Michael Rooker's like the partner that gets shot in the bank heist.
Yeah.
And so he goes and picks up his gun. And I thought I remember I'd seen this scene before. And I thought he had like an FAL or something. And and then I have like a big sound when the guy's shooting it. It's like, oh, this must be some like crazy big sniper rifle. And it's not even a rifle. It's a Franke Spaz 15 shotgun. It's basically like it looks like an AR-15, but it's a shotgun. It was their follow-up to the Spaz 12, the coolest,
Oh, okay.
the coolest shotgun ever made. That's actually just junk.
It's legal in the United States.
Yeah.
You can buy much cooler, more destructive stuff that's totally legal.
And so yeah, I went down that rabbit hole. I was like, what the hell is this gun? So it's like, okay, it's a Spaz 15. Um, which now, yeah, I don't even know what Franke does anymore. I think they just make like shotgun shells or something like that. Because
Yeah,
like they got absorbed by like Beretta, and so they didn't want Franke to make military shotguns anymore because they're like, that's our job. um, and I did a quick watch of L.A. Takedown, and also because I remember like the scene in this movie being famous. So it's like it's Al Pacino and Robert De Niro, and people talked about it like they just put this scene in the movie just so you could have them on screen face to face for the first time. But no, that scene's in L.A. Takedown. So, but don't let a rumor don't let a lie get in the way of a good story. So. Um, and they also did a continuation of this technically with the Heat 2 book.
Okay.
Which I attempted to listen to, but I fell asleep and like missed like 5 chapters. So I'm just like, I'm gonna have to restart this and do this over again. That one it skips time. It's like 3 different time periods. It's like one time period is directly after this movie. It's following around the Val Kilmer character with Chihurlis or something like that.
Chris Chihurlis? Yeah.
He goes like runs off to remember that movie Triple Frontier with like Ben Affleck where they rob the drug money.
Yes.
So that's where he goes in the book down there to run away from the authorities in America. And then there's like sometime it jumps in the future like like 6 years or something where he's like not shot anymore, and he's like working with like like some sort of like Singapore like drug dealing group or something like that that's also like operating out of Mexico. And then it goes back to like the 80s where they have Macaulay and Hannah in Chicago. They never meet, but basically like Hannah is chasing after the group that Macaulay's with, and like they never meet, but like the audience knows who they are. It's like, oh, they didn't know how close they were together, but they never see each other. But then there's like associated with there's like a part of their crew that's like a sociopath. That's basically a guy who basically just robs people because he likes the opportunity to hurt people, and then that becomes a thing. But yeah, again, I didn't finish it, but they're apparently the movie's in production, so they're making a Heat 2 with what's his face? Adam Driver.
Oh, okay.
Which I'm not sure who he's playing. I'm not sure like what they're going to focus on. I'm not sure if they're doing the whole Heat 2 book in the different time periods, or if they're just going to do like Heat 2 the prequel. We're going to have the different characters be Hannah and Macaulay again. Although weirdly, it's his name's not Macaulay in L.A. Takedown. It's McLaren.
Oh, okay.
It's kind of a cool and a car associated name, but then they change it for some reason. Maybe that's right. Maybe McLaren was too much of a name they could get sued for or something. Or McLaren, the car manufacturer, is like, no. But yeah, so that's. I think it says it's in production. I can't remember because if it says it's in pre-production, that can mean anything.
That could.
Oh, Oh wait, no, no. Is it listed there? Oh, I guess it doesn't look like it's listed anymore. It was listed as being in production, but oh wait, that's producer. Let me look under director. Upcoming. Oh, it's Heat 2 is it says pre-production, so anything could be happening. So
Yeah.
pre-production could mean a studio executive read the cover page.
Right.
It's now in pre-production. um, but yeah, of course. So yeah, this is directed by Michael. It came out December 15th, 1995. So yeah, like I don't remember. I don't remember the release cycle for this movie whatsoever. It just appeared on cable. That's how I know it. I think I literally caught wind of it because I was flipping through channels and I got to the bank robbery scene. It's like, oh, what's this? um, it's directed by Michael Mann. He also directed L.A. Takedown and wrote that. So this is just him remaking his own script. Um, which I probably should have looked up of other times that's got to happen. Do you do you recall other moments where people have basically like made a movie twice?
Um. Yeah, I know there is one, but I can't think for the life of me who it is. But I think it's happened before.
um, and cinematographer is Dante Spinati, um, who's like an Italian cinematographer.
Okay, that
Uh,
makes sense.
he's worked with Michael Mann a bunch. Like he even worked with him back on Manhunter. Like
Yeah. Oh
that's how
yeah.
far they go back.
Yeah.
um. Oh, I had them pulled. Yeah, there is. Yeah, Manhunter's the first one I recognize. He does a lot of work, but a lot of it's stuff I don't even know what the hell it is.
A lot
Uh,
of it's stuff in Europe, I think.
yeah. I don't know, there's Beaches. I remember hearing of that. I've never seen that movie. Hudson Hawk's an infamous movie, so that's not necessarily great. Here's Last of the Mohicans. That's another Michael Mann movie. I've never seen that. I heard. I mean, I basically hear every Michael Mann movie is a good movie, but
We did The Quick and the Dead.
yeah, which we've done for this show. So yeah, I
Yeah.
love that. Um, yeah, same year, 1995.
Oh yeah, he's busy that year.
Yeah,
L.A.
L.A.
Confidential.
Confidential. Yeah. Um,
Oh,
oh,
he did The Insider. Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
he also did Red Dragon, which is weird because Manhunter and Red Dragon are based on the same materials.
Yeah, that is weird. I did not know that until I looked at it.
Michael Mann did not direct Red Dragon. It's Hollywood's canceled own. Oh, was it Brett? Oh, no, I don't. I have to get this wrong. Oh, it's Brett Ratner. Yeah, that's who I was thinking of.
Yeah.
Just a guy who somehow got through Hollywood making mediocre movies. Well, he got a hold of some franchises, I guess. So,
Yeah.
um, yeah, Public Enemy. Yeah, he does. He just does a lot of Michael Mann's movies. Did Ant-Man and the Wasp, which that was the sequel, the second Ant-Man movie, which both those movies are pretty good and like really interesting cinematographer stuff because like they have like the different scales where you have like normal, you have the small scale, and you have the big scale because you can also grow to a giant size. So those have great kind of a cinematography to them. The third one not. Third one's just a god. That's just a sorry miss.
Yeah, I heard it was really mixed up.
Well, it has I mean, it's one of those COVID. Like we shot it in COVID movie, but it's also like almost 100% a green screen movie.
Oh, okay.
And it doesn't look great, and it doesn't feel good, and the story's all over the place. And then they because like they're trying to build up their next big villain, but then that guy got caught up in like legal trouble. They now have to abandon it. So now basically that whole movie is pointless.
Oh, was that the guy that the villain in that was like beating the hell out of his wife in real life or something?
Yeah, I don't know what the actual stuff is, but yeah,
I know it
it's
was something bad. Like,
something with hitting a woman, and then there's debate about whether that's was actually happening or not. And then things went to trial, and then like he was like guilty is not guilty in one place, guilty in the other place, and then they're like, yeah, we're just gonna cut ties with you.
Yeah, this is getting too complicated. We're can't craft an argument that makes sense.
And of course, the cast here is Al Pacino, Robert De Niro, Val Kilmer, and a bunch of other people we'll get to. But a bunch of character actors, and a bunch of other people that
I think everyone showed up.
Yeah, and a bunch of Michael Mann favorites too.
Yeah, 'cause Tom Noonan was in this.
Yeah. Which I only know him. He used it in Manhunter. Has he used him in a bunch of other things? Does he use him in like everything? I'm trying to think of it. I'm not sure.
Tom Noonan stands out to me so much in every movie he's in because he's this guy. Is he like 6'6" or something? He's this crazy tall guy. Because I first came onto my radar and Manhunter was the first thing, but RoboCop 2 was when I paid attention.
Oh yeah.
And then of course, oh yeah, Manhunter, and then trying to.
Oh, we also I think wasn't he the axe guy in Last Action Hero?
Yes. Okay. The Ripper. Yeah, which was right after he was Kane in RoboCop 2. He's also in Eight-Legged Freaks. And a bunch of other movies, but yeah,
and the original inception of this podcast, or I guess not the inception, but like the part of the podcast we don't do anymore. He was in, the Blacklist as like a serial killer that that melted their bodies down with acid and stuff like that.
Right. I think we covered that episode because it's like, yeah, it's this guy again.
Yeah, it's almost like Tom Noonan's like a guy like a retroactively. It's like, oh, he's in this, and he's in this. Yeah, because he does stand out, but there are others. It seems like whenever he's just kind of there to be big and tall and weird, like you recognize him, but then he does have like normal roles where they don't shoot him like a giant, and he doesn't stand out like he normally does when he's used as like a monster in a movie. So, yeah, let's get into it. So we have Act 1.
Sorry, I had to mute that. Blow my nose.
We got credits over a steamy rail line. This is in L.A., which will have, This does pretty much feel like a sequel to Thief.
Yes.
And then and probably in an unintentional trilogy, Collateral takes place in LA and very much seems like it's in the same universe, but maybe a different style.
Collateral is a little, but all three of those, they have the same DNA. I guess this movie, when they did, because the other big star in this movie is LA. It's like I said, it makes you want to live there because it's like, this place looks cool. Most of the stuff in this movie were unshot parts of LA.
Huh. Okay.
They weren't the most famous parts of LA, and that was done intentionally to show you that, no, this is a living city.
Yeah.
There were shots at the harbors and stuff, things you don't usually see.
Yeah.
They always shoot stuff in those canals and stuff.
Yeah.
They don't show you there's a big port of entry there and everything.
Yeah, they're always doing a car chase in the LA River, or they're using the Bradbury building for something. And just look at Blade Runner. It's like Blade Runner shoots LA, and basically it's like, we're gonna shoot all the normal locales that everybody else does, but we're just gonna put sci-fi stuff on top of it.
So. Yeah, we're just gonna redress them and shoot them in almost pitch black. But yeah, this was very functional LA.
Yeah, and probably made it easier to shoot because I always remember the people would talk about the production nightmare of trying to shoot an action movie in New York City, and I guess for John McTiernan talks about it in Die Hard with a Vengeance, where it's like you kind of do your setup shot in New York City, but you do all your action stuff kind of down the road in the suburbs. So it has so it kind of has oh, this looks like a New York street, but it doesn't have the New York traffic.
Well, I didn't realize I was listening to someone was talking about shooting stuff in New York, and I didn't realize most of New York doesn't have alleys like that. The big New York alleyways, that's
okay.
in Manhattan, and so where the giant buildings are. out is where people live, there's not a lot of alleyways between those buildings.
Yeah.
But they make it seem like it's a city of alleys because that's
Yeah.
where they shoot stuff.
Yeah.
Because you can shoot there, you can't shoot on the street because there's like a million people walking around. But it's like, yeah, I don't think they have alleys. Wow, it's this guy who lived there named it off like Brooklyn. There's not very many of them.
Yeah.
Which is why it's so fun to get like cable internet and stuff there because there's no easement for utilities. It's just buildings right to the street. And it's like, I want to run fiber. It's like, well, you got to get a blasting permit because there's like 200 years of infrastructure underneath you that is not compatible with anything.
But also, yeah, there's tons of people like, at least on podcasts I know that lived in New York City, and it's like, yeah, you don't need a car. But then there's like people that lived in Brooklyn where it's like, yeah, I don't like, yeah, I go to New York City for my job. I live in Brooklyn, which is just like a suburb, essentially, a giant suburb to New York City. So, like it's.
Well, I learned from like comedians and stuff. I had no idea what Long Island was.
Yeah.
I thought that was just like an annex of New York where you went to live at night or whatever. And it's like, no, it's their own little Kentucky of like, they all love Trump there and stuff. And I'm like, Trump, New York, what? It's like, oh, okay. But yeah, I did not know anything about it.
Well, yeah, and Staten Island, its own little thing. And then,
yeah.
Yeah, and the Bronx is its own thing, and then like the Upper East Side, Upper West Side, they're all their own things, and then Harlem. So yeah, they're all.
It's kind of here from the Midwest. We just see it as one giant thing. It's all the same thing. It's like no, it's actually has different architecture, different buildings, and
separate islands that don't even. Yeah, because when you think of New York, you just think of Manhattan, but it's like it's not where that's not where everything is. Which I think I mostly learned from the Spider-Man game they released recently, because you basically swing to all the different parts of the city. It's like, oh, this is here, okay.
Well, what I learned about it was in Cloverfield.
Okay.
Because it's like they're actually just going through New York, and it's being attacked by a giant monster. It's like, oh yeah, they have to get across these bridges and stuff. If they get knocked over, it's like, well, that's it. And we're trying to get into subway tunnels that are full of spiders or something. Like, oh my god, what a nightmare! But there's actually somebody who made a map of where they went. And you realize, like, oh my god, yeah, it's just like crawling through infrastructure.
Yeah. But yeah, so yeah, in LA they actually have, I guess they have trains, but there seems to always be a fight between public transportation in California, which always seems weird because they seem like they'd be all for public transportation, but for some reason it always gets undercut by corporations. Like, no, we can do better.
I think it's that, and it's like they have that kind of West Coast like mindset of like, you'd think like, oh yeah, they'd have elevated trains and stuff everywhere, but they also have like a very like, oh, it was settled by people from the Midwest, so they just built this giant car infrastructure around these megalopolis city, which, because LA in itself is not like nearly the size of New York. It's when you throw in the peripheral suburbs and cities, it's like, oh yeah, 25 million people live here, but it's spread out over this massive area. It's like, oh, okay, so it's all built around like a car infrastructure.
Yeah.
And also like the main city that governs it is way north of there, and it's like it's so spread out. It's really wild. But yeah, they are so spread out is why they don't have that like subways and stuff like that. And I also think like earthquakes and stuff make that people aren't too keen on that. It's like, let's this tube in the ground, see what happens.
Well, you can make it. I mean, the Japanese can make it work. Then
I just thought they accepted death as a part of their honor code. It's like, if I die going to work, I die with honor. So I don't know. Yeah, the Japanese always figure out a way to make it work.
I forget. There's this weird Reddit like subreddit that like somehow got recommended to me, or just ends up on my feed, maybe because it's like one of the dumbest subreddits I think I've ever seen, but like I'm vaguely interested in like public transportation. It's like, oh, that seems like a good idea. Like, I drive a car, but I would like if public transportation worked and I didn't have to pay for a car or anything like that. But I live in the Midwest. You need a car because like I would love to bike everywhere, but I don't trust anybody that has a car, so I have to have a car and also be untrustworthy. So
Yeah, things I've learned about bikes and motorcycles and anything. If you like the two wheels in parallel, look out because eventually you're gonna, if you're lucky, you're gonna end up in the two wheels side by side. That's gonna be a wheelchair, and you don't want that. Yeah, because they put these bike lanes in all around us. People are getting squashed all the time now, and it's like, well, because the enclosed bike lanes, they're fine.
yeah,
They do that stuff where it just merges onto a street, and it's like, no, this is our lane. It's like no one's paying attention to that. And half the time, it doesn't move with the lane you're in. Like it'll suddenly like jink over because there's like a fire hydrant or something there. But if you're not seeing that, it's like this guy in this bike's just coming in front of you, and it's like this is a bad idea. But they half-ass everything here.
yeah.
Too. They're not.
I've seen weird ones where there's like a bike lane, and then there's like the parking, like the what do you call it? Street side parking is like in the middle, is like beyond that. So it's like, well, to park there, you have to like pull through the bike lane. That just seems kind of weird.
They have that in Ann Arbor. I know what you're talking about.
And there's also the ones where they've set them up here where they had the bike lane where it's just a line on the side of the road. It's like 2 feet wide, and then when you get to like where like they have like a right hand turn, they have like the green strips where it's like that's where you're supposed to pull and to go through. It's like, I guess that's nice, but that doesn't stop me from running into somebody that's there.
No. Well, see, like in here, they did like they painted it's green and red paint, so you can it's like interlaced like stripes, so you can see it's like, oh, that's clearly a bike lane. One winter of salt. One winter. Guess what? That paint's gone. The white stripe's still there because that's designed for that. But yeah, for some reason that paint didn't last. And then they've tried carpool lanes here, and they've tried lanes where they'll have 5 lanes open, but they'll pinch it down to 4 lanes or it's a carpool lane, but they can never enforce anything because the people just end up driving semi trucks in them and stuff because no one lets the truckers over because it'll be 4 lanes. And then one will pinch off and it'll become a carpool lane, but everyone's in these fast lanes out here. They won't let the trucks over. So it's like, oh, your carpool lane's full of truck drivers because no one's letting the truck drive because no one's going to let them in. It's like, yeah, drive slow in front of me. Like, no, that's not happening. So,
yeah, it's revenge for any time like a trucker's try to pass another truck and it took them 15 minutes.
Shift through 35 different.
And you're like, should I pass these guys? Go off road to pass these guys?
Yeah, just like drive through the weeds.
Should I just take this exit and chill and get a sandwich or something and then come back later?
Well, we have the guys around here that drive the repair vehicles, or we have all these delivery things now, and it'll say right on the back, speed restricted to 65. And it's like the speed limit is 70 in Michigan, 75 in some places. It's like, what? You can't put a vehicle on the road, and it's not even special utility. It's just like a tall box vehicle or something. And it's like, you can't do that. These guys, because what's going to happen is these guys are going to be forced into the far right lane, which means people are just going to exit into the side of them all day. It's like, that's going to be a fun job, but that's.
But anyways, the subreddit is called Fuck Cars, and it's one of the dumbest subreddits I've ever seen because it's all just. It seems like it's written by AI. It's like, oh, a car exists. This must be the dumbest thing that's ever happened. It's like it's like, yeah, it's completely ridiculous.
Yeah, it's just.
And they basically like unintentionally spread propaganda too, where it's like, look at this great like civilian transportation in China. It's like, yeah, that seems cool, but there's probably a reason it's not everywhere else.
Yeah.
It's probably because it doesn't work.
Yeah, because you can't shoot people for moving violations in traffic here, so that system will never work. No, I've ran into a lot of that. You have a lot of angry people on Reddit who've decided they are just going to they're in the bag for communism. Life sucks. And it's like, oh, you think this life sucks? Okay. Try communism.
Anyway, so Robert De Niro walks up a train.
What are we talking about? Yeah.
LA transportation as it pertains to here. Because he gets off a train and it's like, huh, and he's wearing an EMT uniform. This is Neil McCauley's his character's name. I think I refer to him as Neil throughout my notes. Yeah. So yeah, Neil walks through a hospital. He gets it. He gets an ambulance and starts it, and so you're pretty sure it's like, oh, I don't think that's his. So,
As long as he's acting like he's confident, though.
confidence, man. Then we cut to Chris Traherlis. This is Val Kilmer. He's buying some explosives. Back in the day, we could just do that. Because I'm guessing this is either pre or around the same time as the Oklahoma City bombing.
I think the Oklahoma City bombing. I mean, I'm going to say 96. Let me check that. Keep going, though.
Okay. So then we cut to Lieutenant.
This isn't going to get my computer flagged. All kinds of notes about heat and now Oklahoma City bombing. What are these guys doing? Oh, that happened in April of 95, but this movie was made before that.
Yeah, okay.
Okay. Yeah, because he's buying he wants to build basically a fertilizer bomb. It's like, yeah, sure.
Well, I guess he buys shape charges, which is different, but but still, it seems like after that happened, there seemed to be a more of a crackdown on all right, who's buying explosives. But
yeah, because people started actually doing like the craziest stuff imaginable. It's like, what? All of our laws were always structured for so long around crime, even when they outlawed like Tommy guns and fully automatic weapons and stuff. That was not because the people were worried about the government being assaulted. It was because they were worried about bank robbers and criminals. It's only from like the 90s on where it's like, oh yeah, there's people that just want to just carve a one-lane path of destruction towards the government. It's like, what are they getting out of it? Money, sex, gold, diamonds? No, they're just crazy people who want to attack the government and replace it with some kind of Nazi thing. Like, oh, so that's going to get everyone on your side.
So we got to Lieutenant Vincent Hanna, which I think I'm just going to refer to him as Hanna throughout the rest of my notes. This is Al Pacino. He's making out in bed with, I think it's his wife.
Never sure.
Justine. Oh yeah, her name's Justine Hanna. So yeah, it's his wife. So, but it's like his third wife. So it's played by Diane Verona, which I think is like the biggest role she's ever had. Because I try to look up other stuff, and it's like I don't think she has big roles in a lot of things. But because I was like, oh, she did a pretty good job here, but she's also probably like in her 40s or late 30s in this movie, so they're probably not throwing a lot of roles at her. Although, but she's still acting. So, there's some awkwardness between them. Then they cut to Hannah taking a shower, and then he gets out of that. He's dressed, and then Laura, played by Natalie Portman, shows up. She's Justine's daughter, which is like random people to show up in this movie you wouldn't be expecting. So.
Yeah, it's kind of weird to see her like, oh, okay.
Oh, this would be her coming off of, well, probably. I mean, yeah, her first big role was in Leon the Professional.
Yeah.
Which I don't. That's probably 4 years removed from this, probably. I want to say 92 for Leon. Which that's a weird thing to be a child actor for. Like most
Leon the Professional is the year before this.
Oh, it's a year before. Okay. So this is still her. So yeah, she's got a lot of weird, like intense, serious roles when she's a teenager.
Imagine Gary Oldman was pretty frightening to her. You should watch that performance again. That is like a nuts that's the same guy.
Yeah.
Because I think my favorite Gary Oldman is the Fifth Element guy.
Yeah.
Just because he played George W. Bush as an agent of evil. But yeah, that's a memorable one. We'll do that someday.
Yeah. There's contention all around. There's like nobody seems to like each other in the family. Lauren's worried about spending the day with her real father, and and then they seem to know something like, oh, he's not going to show up, but that's just kind of like in the wind. I'm not sure if you picked that up in the first viewing. That's probably something I never paid attention till this viewing. It's like when
There's
it,
a lot of things I thought I knew about this movie that upon watching, it's like they had all these like weird subplots
oh
going,
yeah,
never connected or just paid off very briefly.
yeah. Well, I guess we'll get to it, but maybe yeah, we'll get to it. Maybe I'll leave that as a surprise.
Good surprise.
um, because I have opinions about the third act of this movie, and that it's not good. um, then we cut to Wangro, played by Kevin Gage. He hops in a tow truck with Michael Chirito. This is Tom Sizemore. Do you know Kevin Gage from anything else?
I know this guy, and he plays this guy in everything.
Okay.
Because he's either a biker or some kind of. He looks like an ex-con.
Yeah,
He's like, I don't know what he's really like as a person, but yeah, he looks like an ex-con.
Weirdly, I think like this name Wangro, and I don't even know if this is like made up or a real name. I feel like this is the name that comes out of this movie.
Yes.
Like people compare things to Wangro. It's like, Wangro, the guy who fucks things up because he's like he can't get over himself.
Yeah. He's like a meme or don't be the Wayne Grow of the bank robbing team. It's like, huh? Don't let your ego get in the way
Because
of millions of dollars.
Yeah.
Idiot.
That I don't know. That's like the somewhere in my head. That's what like kind of irks me in some way. Because for some reason, I do want to see the movie where like they just successfully complete the crimes and go about their life.
Yeah. It's the most boring bank robbery. It's like they get in this massive shootout, don't really kill anyone. And everyone's like intelligent.
Yeah.
It's like, what are you gonna do? It's like, don't be the Brinks jobs guys. It's like the biggest robbery in history. Or no, the Lufthansa payroll guys. They just steal the entire payroll and cash from New York, and they show up in like, Cadillacs the next day. Guys, come on. You want smart criminals, but they don't really. They do exist.
Yeah, I don't, because like these people fucking exist because Michael Mann fucking knows them and he puts them in these movies as real people. But the thing is, it's kind of like the way like when I was talking about like when we're watching The Blacklist and like every episode there's like a government assassin. There's like somebody whose job it is that they destroy heads. They assassinate heads of state. I'm like, that's not a real person. Like if like maybe one person assassinates a head of state, but they're usually like a patsy or they're like the only ways that someone is murdering multiple heads of states if they're in the CIA or like on a Navy SEAL team.
Yeah,
there's not like some secret guy that's like that like is bankrolled by like governments to go kill people and be assassinated, or maybe they are and they're like the best assassins, but like. We hear about heads of state being murdered, and it doesn't happen that often.
And when it does, it's usually, well, in the case of Eastern Europe, it's either some crazy within your country, or it's the Russians, trying to polonium somebody or something, some obvious thing. But it's never like these slick guys that just come in on ropes and
yeah. And so that's the thing of like, whose job it is like that they're a bank robber, because like you hear about bank robberies and you also hear the conclusions, like they're now in jail from bank robbing. Like, and maybe the media just downplays it, but like, I don't know of many successful bank robberies. Like every time some place is robbed, you know about it, and then they're usually caught. And I know there's like you're talking about that one heist, like did that happen recently? Was that like?
I was in the 70s.
There was one like, it was in Europe. Was it like they steal like art or something and they just ran away with like millions of dollars worth of art and nobody knows what the hell happened to them?
Oh yeah, that was in France, I think. Yeah, I forget what the story. No, they robbed stores where they had like $100,000 Rolexes.
Yeah,
but they stole like 500 of them. It was crazy stuff like that. and it's like, oh yeah, this is like millions of euros worth of stuff, but these guys immediately like fenced it, and but that's that kind of high crime that exists like between kind of that area between France and Italy, where there's just like this triangle of people that, like, my grandfather was a criminal, my father was a criminal, I too am a criminal, and it's like, and they never get caught because they work like once every 10 years and they drink wine and like relax somewhere. It's not like because he tried to. Then the North Hollywood guys try to emulate this like style of bank robbery.
Well, I mean that was because that changed a bunch of stuff in the police department in the LA police department, where they had like, all right, now every squad car has a rifle.
Yeah, they got like ARs in them and stuff.
Because they couldn't. Yeah, because one AR would have stopped those guys, because they don't stop rounds that going that fast.
Yeah,
but they had fully automatic AK-47s, which I'm not sure if they were legal or they altered.
Well, I got those in Mexico.
Oh, okay.
Because one guy was Romanian American and one guy was an American, and they basically went to Mexico. And I'm not that story gets weird, but I know they say the guns came from Mexico. I don't know if they bought them, because I'm sure there's people in Mexico, if you have enough money, and it's not hard coming back over the border. I mean, you're just taking the chance, are they going to search the car or not? But AK-47s come apart into lots of different parts, and they're not hard to hide. So, and fully automatic AK-47s are not a whole lot different from
it might be one of the most common guns in the world.
Yeah, I think so.
Maybe not in America, but in the world.
They're everywhere.
Yeah, because if you look at the timeline of the North Hollywood shootout, like, that was a long time. They got money, they just couldn't get out of there. Like,
yeah, their car screwed up.
Yeah.
And then they were on feet, and also they'd taken massive amounts of painkillers.
Yeah.
So they wouldn't feel their bones being broke, because even if you get hit in body armor, it's still going to break bones and stuff. What I don't understand is why nobody like threw some just
a Molotov cocktail at him.
That would have been a little hardcore, but the number of people that are being hurt, I would have said, yeah, it's time for the flamethrowers. But just run a car at them full blast.
Yeah.
Like, wait till they hit an intersection and just come flying through there. I mean, it's like, you're gonna kill them.
Yeah.
I think that's how they did. They did run the one guy down with a car, didn't they?
I can't remember. I remember like one of the guys, like, because they also had like the 100-round mags for like the AK-47.
Weird magazines, like the snail magazines. Or something.
And then but like one guy's like, because I remember one guy's it just stove type, and all he had to do was just rack it, and he would have kept going. But like he just threw it down, and then was like trying to run away. But then they like eventually bled to death or something like that. And yeah, I didn't think they like took the other guy. Well, they killed them both. Like, nobody got out of there alive.
Yeah, they were killing those guys. I think they also got high-powered rifles from a gun store.
Yeah,
and started hitting them with hunting rifles, which, like, yeah, you're done.
But yeah, it's like, yeah, like those guys didn't make it. That's like a high-profile robbery. It's like,
yeah.
So it's like, I mean, so I'm like. So, like, I'm watching this movie, even at the time, like, do these people exist? And, like, must be in some way, but they must be stealing stuff on such a low-key level, they get away with it, and they're not usually this loud and brash. I mean, because, like, the opening robbery is a brash robbery, but it's so specific that it's really not that, it's not that, like, it's not that risky, because they're grabbing one thing, getting out of there. Whereas like the bank robbery at the end of the movie is like, it's kind of a home run hit. Like this is a last job, and that's why they take the risk. It's like, oh man, we'll be set for the rest of our lives, which is weird because if you look at their lives, it's like you're already set. Like, even the one guy, he's already invested in real estate. Like, just stop. Like, you've been to prison, you have a family and real estate. Like, it seems like you can make this work out, but whatever. I guess which you can understand for Macaulay, or what's his name? What's his first name? Because I'm calling his first name. Neil, is that his life is doing the work. It's not about necessarily, like, he gets the satisfaction out of completing the job and getting away with it. But it's not about the money; it's about the work. Because, like,
that's what's interesting about these movies, is like what motivates the characters, and then he's just about the art. he just like, because you can tell he has no life. Like
Yeah.
you find out later in the movie, he lives in like an IKEA model of a home. It's like
Yeah.
there's nothing personal. And there's a reason why, though. He explains that
Yeah.
philosophically later. But yeah, like movies like this, and like I remember you said about The Town, you know, the bank robbery, Boston bank robber movie. It's like it makes you think. It's like, man, I could almost pull this crap off. You know, this looks fun and exciting, and it's like, I wouldn't be the guy who got too greedy. I wouldn't be the Wayne
Yeah.
Bro. Start thinking that stuff like, wow, this is kind of cool. It's got to learn a little bit about welding, computers, metallurgy, and guns. Of course, guns. Everyone loves those. So yeah,
yeah, that's why this stuff's captivating. But
yeah,
because like really like what these guys turn into is now they just steal money digitally. So
Hey, you want to know who the guys are that get away with this? Well, go back to 2008. Those are the people that get away with it. They don't just steal like $12 million. They implode the entire. They put an empire at risk, almost destroy the economy as we know it, and then they get to like continue doing the same thing.
And they get more money from the government that's supposed to stop them from destroying the economy.
Yeah, what they did was essentially like if I got in my car, drove drunk, hit a school bus, just walked away from the accident while the school bus burned and everyone burned alive, and the government gives me a Ferrari and like $200,000. Do better next time. Like, that's essentially, that's who's getting away with the money now.
Oh yeah. So Waygro gets picked up by he gets picked up by Michael, who like they have like the like you said, the semi truck wrecker. So it's just like kind of like a really big tow truck. Wayngro's kind of chatty and intense. And then like just Michael just tells him to shut up. Then we have Trejo, Danny Trejo, and his character's name is Trejo. He's being the lookout, which is probably hot off the heels of Desperado, or is this just before Desperado? I'll have to look. I think Desperado was 95. Okay, same year. Okay.
This is the first movie I remember him in. Then I remember like Desperado I saw later.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, the knife guy.
Michael parks the tow truck under an overpass, and then we have Chris and Neil are getting a position with their EMT or with their ambulance. They all put hockey mask on and move into their positions, which is also just a cool look. It's not as iconic as the the president's mask from Point Break. But here it's it's Michael Mann, so it's like functional and cooler looking. So yeah, they park the ambulance on the road, and that causes the bank truck that's going through its route to like enter they want to cross the T with the big semi wrecker, and so they knock the bank truck over and roll it on its side. Which I don't know, Nathan. Can you pull off your head how heavy those bank trucks are? Because they're fully armored.
I would say they probably had the right size wrecker to do that.
Yeah.
But that would have been a hell. Those guys would have been rattled pretty good in that wrecker. That's a hell of a lot of force to flip that thing over like that.
Yeah.
See, all the armor holds it down. It's not like top heavy. It's just armored through. So. But it's a cool scene.
Yeah.
I mean, I noticed they didn't use like any kind of regular vehicle. So it's like, that might be what it takes.
I mean, unless like the wrecker had just set high enough that it like hit the more of the top of the bank truck to kind of flip it.
That could have been. There was definitely some thought that went into this.
Yeah. I mean,
if they did it with like a F-350 or something, it's like there's no way.
It would just
rip the front off. It's like, no, it takes something huge.
Because I don't even think they flip it in LA Takedown, but they have like the little forks on the dump truck there to like flip to. Yeah, I think they do flip it. Yeah, so.
Yeah, that wouldn't happen. Those little forks on the front of those are just for lifting those dumpsters up.
Yeah, not for lifting a bank truck.
An armored vehicle.
Chris puts a shape charge on the door and blows it up, which is like a nice square that kind of crosses between the beam of the door frame and the door, so they can open it up. Yeah, they all stand off to the side and like charge and blow it up. So it's like, oh, they're very professional, which I have to admit. I do know you see a tattoo, like you see an Eagle Globe and Anchor tattoo on Neil later on, but like these guys seem to be like, I don't know if they seem to be military trained and also like they've been to prison. So like I don't know, Nathan, what do you guess like what are these walks of life that these guys came from?
It seems to be like, to me, these are people that have some kind of military background, that they didn't rise up, to be like officers or anything, but they definitely picked up a lot of skills along the way.
Yeah.
And also, these are people that are, for some reason, disenfranchised from the 9 to 5 world, which they do touch on in this movie.
Yeah.
They find out once you go to prison a few times, there isn't normal work for you.
Yes.
You don't go get a job at the Chevy plant or whatever and live happily ever after. They won't hire you. So this is kind of, if you're not a complete moron and you don't want to get into drugs, because drugs draw a lot of attention, this is kind of, you imagine in this world of LA crime, which is an imaginary world, these guys would show up here and always put their best face forward. But yeah, their familiarity with weapons and tactics and stuff, they don't seem to be guys that are out of control. And the one guy that is, well, Waingro, like he sticks out like a sore thumb.
Yeah. Also, yeah, they ran the bank truck like kind of into like a line of like a used car dealership or something. Because when they blow up the shape charge, like all the front windows on these line of cars blow up. It's really cool.
Yeah, very Hurt Locker-ish. It's like, oh, a lot of things are happening.
They pull the guards out of the back and start grabbing some documents. Rango gets mad at one of the guards, and then this is where Michael says, like, they can't. You see the bleeding? You see the blood in their ears? That means they can't hear you. But yeah, Waingro keeps getting mad. I think this is Neil. Neil grabs a document from inside the truck and then he gets out of there. Raingard just kind of shoots a guard for the hell of it, and then when that happens, one of the guards goes for like an ankle gun, and then everybody just like unloads on him, except for one guy's left, and then they just kind of look at him as like, well, we've already committed murder, so then I think it's Chris that just like executes him.
Yeah,
and then they get out of there. And everyone is mad at Waingro. It's like, this could have just happened and we would have been on with our lives.
Yeah, now you've committed multiple murder. You've drawn a lot of attention,
Yeah.
Once corpses start showing up, that's when you're...
And then they all hop into the ambulance, and then they leave a spike script behind, so like cops that are trying to chase them, like now get all their cars get spiked, and then they're stuck there. Because I'm not sure if they mention like the response time, or if it's just or if it's just Hannah later on just like says everything they knew what was going to happen. But yeah, well, we see them being smart now, and then we'll talk about how smart they are later, or at least the Hannah will. So
yeah.
Then they cut to another like street, and the robbers leave the ambulance, and then Chris blows it up as they leave by just like dousing it in gasoline and leaving some sort of like timed explosive in there or whatever.
Yeah, it's like a milk jug full of something that pretty much just destroys any evidence.
Yeah, it's like it's one of those things you're talking about, where it's like, hey, why don't these guys get like a job in construction or something like that? But like you said, like no, they all got priors, so like nobody's hiring him for that. So then we cut to Neil meets with Nate. This is John Voight's character, who's like paying him off for the job. They stole bank bearer bonds, which I guess I've never actually like looked up. I've always heard this thing before. I always took it as like BARABOND, a bearer bond, and like one word, but no, they're bearer bonds.
Yes.
Which I I even looked up and I forgot what they actually are, but it's not. It's
Basically, they're it's private money,
yeah,
but it's like stock. Like, because like if I own stock in a company and I want to sell it, well, it's I'm the seller and whoever wants to buy it is the buyer, but I'm listed as the seller.
yeah.
Where bearer bonds are just like whoever bears them, this is their worth.
Is this like a private? Is this like like
Private money.
okay? So it's like, but if like you bought a stock, that's like that's like a publicly traded company, whereas this is like private. Okay.
Yes, these are illegal in the United States and have been since the 80s because it basically becomes a huge underground drug money thing. You can sell them in any other country in the world. If you're the bearer of, if you're the person who owns them, if they're in your possession, you can trade them in for euros or whatever you want. But they are strictly illegal here,
Huh.
and in China too.
Huh.
They don't allow them in China or the United States. But
Huh.
China and the United States also are the say only two countries whose denominations only go up to 100. So because there's the highest denomination you can get is 101 or $100 bill, and the reason is we don't have $1,000 bills or $5,000 bills, is because the criminals could just transport all their money in an envelope. But in China, it's even weirder because their currency fluctuates around wildly. So you literally have, those bank money counting machines we have here that you only see in banks where you put money in. I've only seen that used once when I made the down payment on this house a couple of years ago because I just brought cash because I thought it was cool. And they put it in a machine. It was like, well, that's really, you don't see a lot of those here. In China, you see that as a gas stations and stuff. Because if the prices are really out of control, you could hand someone, 5,000 yuan and it would cover a tank of fuel, and they're just throwing it in a machine. And I know about that because there's a whole underground black market in people modifying those machines, what they call chipping or shaving, where they don't count one or two of the bills.
Yeah.
If you do that over the course of the day, that's a little chunk of change. But it's a whole like black market in China of those money counting machines, making them just shave one or two hundreds off. But the Chinese have those low denominations for the same reason we do, is because they don't want criminals transporting massive amounts of money around in suitcases.
Well, I also heard that like
movies, they show like suitcases full of money, like a lot of money, but really it's like that's like 80 pounds worth of money.
Well, I heard that also if you keep your denominations low, like it's increases the confidence worldwide in your currency because it's like it's basically saying like, oh, we're not subject to inflation even though you are, but
yeah,
there's something like that. But
I'm sure that there is an element of that too. But I just know it from like reading all the books about crime. I do, because there used to be $500 and $1,000 bills. Like a lot of that stuff disappeared in the 70s and 80s because they're like, whoa, wait a minute, we got this whole drug thing going on now.
I mean, what did Saddam Hussein had like just like he had millions of dollars and it was like a semi truck full of money.
$1 billion in a semi truck that a bunch of like army guys found by the side of the road. Open the back of that up. Holy shit, guys. Quickly shoot this with something. I want to see this fly into the air. No, I guess it was like vacuum packed.
Huh.
There's pictures of it because the guys that found it were honest. It's like, yeah.
They made sure to drive the other semi away before we took pictures of it.
Look at this. He had $1 billion. Can you imagine? There's like 15 semis there.
So yeah, they stole bank bearer bonds from Roger Van Zant, who's laundering drug money.
Yep.
He's just a business guy, but so I guess he's also gets into drug money because when you're a business guy and that's just what business people do and Michael Mann stuff. Nate pays Neil the money for getting these bearer bonds. Now that was an extra scheme on it where like they're gonna sell Van Zant back his like bearer bonds for like less than market value, and it was like, yeah, this will work out for everybody, and they're like, yeah, that's a good idea. So
yeah, because he's going to get the insurance money for him.
Yeah. So it's it's not that
50%, 70% face or something, which is like, yeah, it's like your money plus 50% return. Like you don't get that anywhere else. Now, this kind of stuff makes sense to me. It's like, yeah, I could see this happening.
Yeah.
but not without the shootout and people being executed. It's like, that's when people start paying attention.
There was also mentioned that Kelso has a job for Michael at, or not Michael, Neil. I think I wrote Michael for like half this, and then I realized I wrote the wrong name, so I might have that wrong.
Yeah, Macaulay became Michael.
Well, because there is the Michael character, but that's the
Michael Doritos, Tom Sizemore.
Yeah. And there's probably something I mixed up with the GTA 6 because GTA 6 also has a very kind of heat angle to it.
Oh yeah,
and the main
absolutely.
character is called Michael. So, then we cut to Lieutenant Hannah. He's on the scene going over the details. This is the robbery homicide division in L.A., which I think they even made might even be a Michael Mann show. I think it only lasted one season. It starred Tom Sizemore, and it was called Robbery Homicide.
Oh, okay.
Because that's where I learned about like what, because I didn't know how like the police departments were structured, and like how the different, or even in New York, it's crazy where you even have like there's a literal animal precinct. It's an entire precinct that deals with animals in New York City. I didn't know I got that specific, but like and also from watching crime shows, you just assume like, oh yeah, every town has like a murder detective, and then you're just assuming that every town has a murder in every day. And so because you watch TV, it's like, well, that's what must be going on, and you realize like, oh no, no, murders are, I guess, common, but like also fairly uncommon. So
yeah,
there's probably more accidental deaths than there are murders in America. So. That, and then you get that the other cliche of cop dramas where it's like a sheriff department, but then they have a murder and they've never dealt with a murder before, so then they send the FBI, and then they get all mad that the FBI is there stomping on their it's like, well, you don't know how to run a murder investigation. Like, why don't you take the help you can get? So, that's how Twin Peaks started, right?
yeah, I believe so.
We gotta solve this murder. Let's get the FBI.
Well, I think the FBI knew that there was like, oh, there was something going on with this.
Yeah, I thought, because I can't remember like how the FBI gets called into Twin Peaks. I think it's just because they never had a murder there before, so they didn't know what they were doing, so they just call in the FBI.
Yeah, I think that was it, but I also think the FBI knew what was going on.
Okay, yeah.
Because because Dale Cooper was part of there. It was basically what was his name? This would be David Lynch's version of the X-Files team.
Yeah.
Because remember,
the Bookhouse Boys.
Yeah. Well, I guess because David Bowie was one of the agents, because he came back in Fire Walk with Me.
So yeah, this is also where like Hannah declares that robbery homicide's taking over the case, because it's like literally both things. It's a robbery and it's a homicide.
It's in our name. You can't take it away.
But I know from TV shows, like there's homicide, like that's the homicide division, and that takes place in Baltimore. So, but I guess in L.A. they just like have them together or something. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I'm not. Yeah, because L.A. is a lot of, like, there's the city of Los Angeles, and then there's the sheriff's department, which is like massive.
Oh yeah.
But I don't know who does what or how it all works.
Who's patrolling the Nakatomi Plaza?
That would be the city of Los Angeles, according to the police cars.
They stole $1.6 million in bearer bonds, but they didn't touch any of the loose cash. So that's where they're like, okay, these guys are experts and knew exactly what they're going for. So.
Yeah, they weren't. It was just all a matter of timing.
Yeah. Basically, they knew the police response time, the routes out of there, because like they said, like how they had like 2 routes to the interstate to get out of there, and so this is basically them showing like, yeah, this is how smart these guys are, and like, but also like how they like the way
they were mystified by the deaths of the drivers.
Yeah.
Like that's drawing too much attention. I think they even said that draws too much heat. I think that was what they said.
But also, like, it kind of like Hannah takes over the scene so aggressively, it kind of makes all the other cops look kind of like incompetent. So it's like, oh yeah, how are you gonna beat these like professional robbers? They're only gonna beat themselves, you know. But I don't know. They end up all being kind of competent in the end. So
Yeah,
um,
everyone's very competent in this movie.
yeah, I mean that's what Michael Mann likes to do. He's like, it's all about people being professionals at everything, and how their lives are destroyed by them being professionals.
Yeah, they're very good at one thing, not so much relationships, stability, controlling their alcoholism. Like, they're not good at those
No.
things, but they are very good at robbing banks.
Then we cut to Wangro's eating pie. The rest of the team are just like sit in silence, waiting for Neil to show up. Neil shoves Wangro's head into the counter, which the other patrons kind of like glance over, and then it's just like everyone kind of like mean mugs them, and they just look back away. So, they say that like here Neil says like the payoff's in the car, so they go outside. They're all ready to kill Wangro. Like they have a truck prep ready to go. It's like full of like plastic lining and stuff, so they can just like execute them and throw them in the trunk and get rid of them. But then a cop car kind of like goes by. I'm not, does it drive by or is it like kind of do the whoop whoop thing? And like I can't remember.
I think it did hit its lights for a second, but I think they were pulling someone over.
Yeah.
And so everyone's looking in one direction. And yeah.
Yeah. And so Wayne is able to like get away from him in the meantime. And so yeah, they look back and they kind of like try to like look over the situation, but he's gone. And so like, so this is a time where it's like, oh, they look the fool. But it's kind of just purely luck because it's like, well, they had everything planned, but you know, you can't plan for everything. So.
They can't shoot a guy in the head with like a police car driving by.
Yeah, and 10 feet away from a full diner.
Yeah, a little different. People might say something like, "Hey, I remember that. That made an impression on me."
Then we cut to Neil gets to his home, which is like a cool home on the like a beachside home. Where there's some, I'm not sure if this is a famous painting or just a painting Michael Mann likes, but this is like a depiction of it. Where just like there's like a guy. It's just a picture of like you see like kind of a end table like or coffee table whatever in the foreground and a guy standing at a window that's like in a house that's next to a beach and there's like a gun and like keys on the table and it's like exactly what they show here. So
yep.
And it's also like very blue, this scene.
Yes, there's a lot of dark blues in this.
Yeah, which I'm not sure if they did anything special here or if they just shot it like near dusk or something like that, or if they did some after effects here.
I don't know. I just remember it looked very cool. But
yeah,
it was also that's all that was in the house too.
I mean, this is where you know it's a Michael Mann movie because like you have some cool action, but then you have like this really like we're gonna spend a lot of time and like paint a picture and like have nobody speaking and like you got to fill in all the gaps. It's like it's art. It's not just action. Which that's what Michael Mann kind of exclusively does.
Yeah.
I don't know. You think anybody else?
By the way, was painted in 1967.
Huh. Okay.
Called Pacific by Alex Colville.
Okay. I don't know. Does anything come up here top of your mind of other people that kind of do like thoughtful, artful action movies?
Michael Mann is the guy who's made the most impression on me for crime.
Yeah.
Action movies like because Thief is very very moody like this.
Yeah.
I'm sure that I'm probably like completely blowing by one that I even like. I just can't think of it right now.
Because I want to say something like Tarantino, but that's kind of like a lot of like his stuff is just well done and it's very.
His is more dialogue, character driven, more than long scenes.
Yeah, and kind of flashy
great scenes and like great colors in it, but it's also a lot more like it's more frenetic.
Yeah,
doesn't take its time.
Yeah. I mean, some of the later John Wick movies were kind of like had stuff like that, but then like your moment of pause is like literally 10 seconds, and then we're into like a full action scene. Here it's like, no, we're gonna pause for 10 minutes and look at the ocean together.
And it's going to be cool because it's like, I want to live in LA now. I want to be these guys. Except Wayne Grow. Don't want to be him.
Then we cut to Chris gets home. Charlene's there, is played by Ashley Judd. For some reason, I always remember her in this
How
movie.
young Ashley Judd was.
Yeah.
And this is like, crap, that's Ashley Judd.
Yeah, she shows up. Yeah, I think she's one of the people that like had her career kind of like sidetracked because of Harvey Weinstein.
Oh, it was one of those deals,
Yeah.
huh?
Well, I remember I'm listening to this podcast and they're rewatching the or they're watching for some of the people are watching for the first time the Twin Peaks Return, and Ashley Judd like plays like a secretary in that for randomly for no reason.
Oh,
It's like,
okay.
oh yeah, Ashley Judd. But I always remember her in this movie, but she only has like 3 scenes in this movie. But for some reason, I remember her. Well, and, like she has a great like
Very striking looking woman, and
Yeah.
in this movie, she looks really young.
yeah.
Because when I think of Ashley Judd, I'm thinking, oh,
Well, she had that string of like thriller movies. There was like what Double Jeopardy, and then like the Kiss the Girls. I think she was in that.
Star Trek: The Next Generation before this.
Oh yeah, huh?
Yeah, she was like an extra.
And she has a whole acting family, right? It doesn't.
Yeah, she's her cousin's Winona Judd.
Okay, yeah.
No, not cousin. Sorry, half sister.
Okay.
Okay, it was her cousin. I was wrong.
Yeah. So she's mad that she's counting money, and she's mad that they aren't making any more money, or that they need to make more money to get their life off the ground.
Yeah, no pressure, honey. I know what you do for a living. It's enough.
Which I think
Well, that's part of one of the themes of this movie, though, is people just blinded by greed.
yeah.
It's like, oh yeah, there's going to be consequences, and they're going to come quick.
Well, it's like what I mean. It's like, what does she want the money for? Just like a house and stuff. But we find out later on that like he had money and he blew it all gambling. So that's like his one addiction. So
Yeah, because he's like a gambler and like a really bad drinker, right?
yeah, I mean, he only gets drunk, I think, one time.
But in the context of this movie and these guys, like that's his flaw.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
like, he's out of control in a lot of ways.
Yeah, when he's not robbing the place, he's like gambling or drinking. So it's like maybe, I don't know, maybe do some, yeah, maybe like start making models or something. Maybe get into like, I don't know, skeet shooting or something.
Yeah, there's a lot of things that could happen.
Just combine your skills and your hobbies into one. Yeah, you can intertwine them. But yeah, they have an argument. Chris throws stuff around and leaves angry. They make it a point where like he doesn't hit her; he just kind of hits everything around her. So, then we cut to Hannah's getting info on explosive sales. He learns that you can just pick them up with a driver's license. Well, I think it's in Arizona. You can. So
Yeah.
so then I think the one guy, I think it's what's his name? It's like Studi or something. Like, what's his name? He plays like a Native American in like every movie in the 90s.
Yeah, West Studi.
West Studi, yeah, that's it. Yeah, he says like it's like the explosive is so common they can't even trace like where this came from. So, which I don't know. Yeah, like I guess like pre Oklahoma City bombing was probably true. I wonder if that's probably not true today, but I have no idea.
No, I doubt you can do it. Okay.
Then we cut to oh wait, no, it's here. Oh yeah, Hannah. We cut to Hannah gets home to a worried Justine because Lauren's dad no-showed their time together. Hannah and Justine are having marriage trouble because his work-life balance is garbage. So, because he's just
This is his third marriage.
yeah.
Too. This would be a guy like close to my age at the time of this movie.
Yeah,
So
I think both of them around. I'm not sure about. I think De Niro would have been like 51 at the time this movie came out,
yeah,
so they'd
yeah.
probably be around the same age. Um, which which De Niro looks really good in this movie. It's like, hey, he doesn't look that old. But I guess he's like, I don't know. You never think of him as being an in shape guy, but I remember he did that movie like Dirty Grandpa, and he was just like ripped in that movie. So it seems like De Niro just quietly is a guy who works out. And you just don't notice until he takes his shirt off.
Yeah, De Niro is his face you're looking at.
Yeah.
That's what you're waiting for, that dialogue delivery. And
I mean,
Al Pacino's like 5 years older than Robert De Niro.
oh, okay. But yeah, I mean, yeah, but also around this time, I think that maybe it was like 92 or something. He did that Cape Fear movie. And De Niro got ripped for that.
Oh yeah, that was a scary Robert De Niro. I looked like slamming weights in prison for the last 20. Did a good job.
I always love the trivia on that. And I don't know if it's true, but it seems true. Is that like he went so far with his role, he didn't actually get the tattoos. Well, no, he did get tattoos, but he got them done with like cooking oil so that they would just disappear over time.
Okay, that's dedication. You can do that. I'd be like, yeah, you got a special effects that. I don't want body, but you know what reason I never got a tattoo?
What is that?
There's never anything I wanted to express for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
I could never think of any one thing. It's like, I want this to be my thing for the rest, because I just assume they're forever.
Yeah.
It's like, I could never think of anything, so I just didn't bother.
Yeah, I always thought of stupid stuff. And then I try to think of something. I remember like Adam Savage has like a ruler with like some figures tattooed on his arm, which I always thought that would be like a good thing. Just like, because people think like, oh, you keep this in the head. You can't just like look at it. It's like, well, what if it's tattooed on my body? It's like, then I'm not stealing from myself. Can I just cheat on this test with like the stuff tattooed on my body?
Yeah.
Have some formulas there.
This is me. This is part of who I am. This is my art. I'm not cheat.
Then we cut to Neil's at a bookstore looking around, and these are like the classic bookstores in the malls you find, which I'm not sure if they exist anymore.
Very, very rarely. Not ones where you can find, it's where's your metallurgy section?
Yeah.
Oh, that's aisle 4, section 7, sir. Oh, thank you.
I mean, I guess there's still Barnes and Nobles here, but I've never go to it. Maybe Christmas time we'll go get it.
Yeah, I get those. Yeah, we have a Barnes, or no, what's ours? Yeah, I think it's Barnes and Noble. Yeah, I get the gift card and go there. And I'll buy some weird art book.
Yeah.
Like, I forget. I bought one about brutalism once. The brutalist architecture and stuff.
Yeah.
I always liked that. And then, but that's about it.
But in the 90s, these bookstores were like, you could.
Oh, they were everywhere. They were cool too. You go and get a cup of coffee, hang out. Never buy anything. Just read stuff.
I rarely buy anything from a bookstore. It's just like I was just looking around for stuff that see if I could rent it at the library.
My pre-library pass.
He grabs some coffee and he crosses path a second time with Edie because like she walks by him in the bookstore, but now they're at this like weird like I don't know like mile-long coffee shop in the mall.
Yeah, the weird coffee nook that goes on, the eternal coffee nook,
and it's like busy.
Yeah, it seems
it's like 9 p.m. and everyone's getting coffee. I have no idea what the fuck is going on here.
Well, you got to just take the cocaine jitters off. Move that out with a little coffee, I guess.
I don't know. Maybe at this time, LA was just a 24-hour like place.
Yeah, they are. I'm sure they are. Probably still are.
Well, I read a Reddit thread the other day that people were lamenting when like Walmart's used to be 24 hours, and I do remember those days where like, oh, like I need something, and then you just like, let's go to Walmart. And nowadays you just have like, I need something. It's like, well, let's go to sleep and find it tomorrow.
It's like 2 a.m. It's like, do they have thread? They do. We're just not sleeping tonight. Whatever's going on, our project continue.
Yeah.
I remember the Home Depot and Lowe's here had a 24-hour format.
Yeah.
Now that just, of course, became Theftorama.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, it's like, yeah, that's a nice idea. It's like, I need this carpet Staples. It's 3 a.m. It's like, I know where we're going.
And well, a bunch of people like incorrectly assume that like it's COVID that killed the 24-hour Walmarts, but like no, they stopped doing 24-hour Walmarts essentially like 3 months before the pandemic happened.
Yeah, because everyone was stealing everything.
Yeah, if you wanted to shop at Walmart at midnight, you better just get a third shift job there, because it's not like third shift went away. It's just they closed the doors to the public. So.
Yeah, you're going to be the only guy in there unloading 5 trucks. But yeah.
So yeah, across the path, second time with Edie, she's like sitting next to him. Neil gets suspicious by her interest. This is what Nathan's like, hey, what are you reading? He's like, what do you want to know what I'm reading? And then he like apologizes and introduces himself as, oh, he uses a different name. I just wrote Neil again. I think he's like Troy, a metal salesman or something like that.
Yeah, it was something odd. Yeah.
I don't think they ever rectify that. I think she just like knows his real name later on and they don't talk about it. So.
I'm an intense guy.
You learn that she's a graphic designer, which he's like sort of interested in because he's like, you have to go to school for that. She's like, yeah. Then we cut to Edie and Neil are overlooking the city. I think they're at Edie's place because his overlooks the ocean. This one's like, this is your like Blade Runner shot of the city.
Yeah.
Which is, I don't know, I guess is a famous shot. I mean, like I mostly know from Blade Runner, but there are like. Because I mean, that's like literally Mulholland Drive. Like in Mulholland Drive, it's the same shot, and it's literally done from Mulholland Drive. So, I'm not sure if this is Mulholland Drive, but but it's a shot of the city at night, which L.A. looks cool at night because there's a lot of lights going on down there. So, and here I'm not sure if they're doing something special here. It kind of seems blue. It kind of seems like they did some color correction here. It kind of looks weird, but also cool. So. So yeah, they're having drinks. They kind of express a sadness towards each other. It's like, I'm lonely, you're lonely, and then they start making out, and it's like, well, that doesn't seem like a great relationship. Hey, whatever.
We'll be based on our relationship. Will be based on mutual misery.
They're in bed sleeping. Neil leaves while she's still sleeping. This is where I noticed he has an Eagle Globe and Anchor tattoo on his shoulder. At least I think it is. One of the trivia said he did, because that's why they say that also. I think somehow somewhere it's mentioned or something, but Han is also an ex-Marine. So
yes.
Which that's kind of a misnomer, but it's just kind of a shortcut in Hollywood and anywhere. If somebody's a Marine, it just means they've tactically trained to handle every situation, which I can tell you is not true, but it's just a shortcut. If you say someone's a Marine, that means they're a badass, and you can move on from there. So,
yeah, well, it explain like certain skill sets.
Yeah.
Even though it's like they teach you how to rob trucks. Did you attend the bank robbing short course or anything?
But it would mean that like, and especially for like these guys' acting careers, that these guys would have been Vietnam vets,
right?
So, which it feels like that's something like people came back to like 5 years ago, where it's like, let's have like these 60 and 70-year-old guys be action heroes because they are Vietnam vets and now they're in a new world. But they're showing that the old world methods still work. He leaves a glass of water wrapped in a towel for her on the table, which I don't know what the fuck that's about.
Yeah, it just seemed kind of like a weird touch.
Like I was like trying to like, was he like, he doesn't want like the water's gonna condensate and he doesn't want like the table to get water on it, so he wraps in a towel. He's trying to be respectful somehow. Like, what's any of this signify? It's he could have just left, so it's something meaning that he left some water for her, and then the towel's just like an extra special like touch to it. I guess I don't
Yeah, I didn't understand it. I thought it was a condensation thing myself.
know.
Condensation doesn't come up in the movie. It pay off.
Neil hesitates to leave, but then he does. So that's the end of Act 1. We got some bank robbers, and we got some cops on their tails. Act 2, we got Hannah and Drucker, played by McKelty Williamson, who that's Bubba from Forrest Gump.
Oh yeah, okay.
Which
Yeah.
he's been he's showed up in a lot of our movies. I'm trying to remember him, but he keeps showing up. I think he was in Miracle Mile, and some other ones we watched. Recently, I saw he popped up in. Have you seen Fallout, the TV show?
Yeah, some of it, yeah.
So you know the guy that like pulls the ghoul out of the ground.
Okay.
That's McKelty Williamson that does it.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
And he's the guy like he gets killed last and thrown in the grave.
Huh. Okay.
So yeah, Hannah and Drucker are following a lead. He busts in on Albert and his chop shop crew. Oh, that's a. I guess this may be something you can't talk to, but like Nathan has been closer to chop stuff than I have.
Yes, I have.
Because I've never. Well, because I'm baffled by their existence. Because like either like because to me it's like, well, either they have to be like constantly moving locations or they're paying off the authorities. I don't know how chop shops work or end up in anybody's favor, but what.
Well, chop shop's just kind of a misnomer for we bring stolen cars here and modify them in such a way that they have different vehicle identification numbers or clean titles somehow. Or we're just like, oh, this has a hot engine in it. We're just ripping the car apart for the engine and transmission.
Okay.
You don't actually like sell out of the front of them. Secrecy is important. And also you can have a legit front business to cover it. It's like, no, we just paint cars here. We have all this equipment, or we just work on cars here because we're changing brakes or whatever. You put all the cheap cars up front, but all the, the expensive cars in the back that you're moving out the door, those are so that's how that works.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know anything about that world. I don't know if I've been to a chop shop or not accidentally.
Probably yes.
But here it seems like, hey, we know this is a chop shop. We're just not busting you because we need you for other information. Which I guess in my child mind that wouldn't make sense to me. It's like, if they're doing crime, why aren't you arresting them? And it's like, well, I don't know the political machinations of the crime world and police detective work. So
the reason the chop shops in places like LA would be tolerated is because they're modding out vehicles and prepping them for people to commit crimes.
Yeah.
So this is like, oh, okay, we know they're going here to get hot engines and get special vehicles worked on and stuff like that. That's the other part of it. I've never seen that. The guys that like were just building road warrior vehicles. I've never seen that. I've always seen the we're moving and modifying type stuff to get them sold at an auction or something.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. This seems more of a chop shop, like the John Wick kind special car. That I've never seen those either. I think those only exist in movies. But
I wrote down this line that Hannah says, empathy was yesterday. Today you're wasting my motherfucking time. Which he'll say that. I think he just like says that louder and louder again every time Albert talks. He's like, you're wasting my motherfucking time.
Yeah.
Albert says his brother has some info for him at 2 a.m. at like some diner or something. And so Hannah threatens that he better be there too. Which this all seems like everyone's lying, but ends up being true. So who knows?
Yeah.
Then we cut to Neil meets with Kelso. This is Tom Noonan, who he's like in a wheelchair, which he just seems to be like some tech guy because he seems
Yeah.
like he's like pulled all this. He has so he's put together this bank job. He's done like basically almost all the prep work for it, and he's selling that prep work to Neil for like what, like 200 grand or something like that.
Yeah, I think it was something like that. Yeah.
Which I guess I didn't realize like that's what was going on until watching it this time and having to pay closer attention to things like that. So yeah, he's in a wheelchair. He's apparently just like early internet stuff. He just happens to like, nobody's like encrypting their information. He's just like happens to find all these bits and pieces of the bank and is able to put all this information together. So it's basically just publicly available information that he's put together. So
Yeah, it seemed like a lot of what he was doing was based on like just their security was low access. It's
yeah,
like, well, not many people access this information, so we're going to put it out there. But this guy had the correct feelers to get through it.
yeah. Well, it didn't seem like he necessarily like hacked anything. He just found it like laying around. Um, so yeah, the bank they have to have a bunch of money on Thursday to cover Friday payroll, or I think he says they got a full whack going on at the bank. um, and so yeah, on Thursday, like all this money is gonna be at one bank. I think he says it's gonna be like $6 to $8 million or something like that, or maybe he has even close. I think he says like I think maybe it's $100,000 difference. I think he has it like that pinned in or something like that. Um, and like then Neil's kind of like doesn't necessarily believe him. He's like, yeah, don't they have like sensors and like video cameras and all this stuff? And it's like, oh no, they have way more than that. But don't worry, you're gonna bypass all that. And so that's when Neil's intrigued. He's like, oh, okay, so this guy has more than just like a, just a just coming up and knocking somebody out and grabbing money. This is more just a smash and grab. This is a bit more articulate and thought out. So now he's intrigued in it. Um, then we have Nate calls Roger Van Zant. This is played by William Fitchner, who's like the character actor of character actors for the last 30 years.
Ultimate character. William Fitchner. You know him and you
Yeah.
like him.
Yeah.
Don't remember where.
Oh, I know he's like the bank. He's like the head of the bank that gets killed in The Dark Knight in the opening scene.
Yeah.
He's the guy that like grabs a shotgun and tries to pull it on him. He is the blind guy in Contact.
Yes. Yes.
um,
He's the bad guy in Elysium, the guy who gets robbed.
yeah. He's like the Satan's right hand man in Drive. Is it Drive? No, is it Drive Angry? Yeah, the Nicolas Cage like from Hell movie.
Okay, I haven't seen that one.
Oh, that's great. It's a well, I don't want to call it great. It's a stupid fun movie.
Worth watching for just entertainment.
Nicolas Cage gets out of hell with a car to go save like his daughter or something, and William Fitchner's sent after him. It's like it's basically Ghost Rider, but not Ghost Rider.
Which is weird because Nicolas Cage played Ghost Rider.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah.
Okay, that's unusual.
I can't remember if it was after both those movies or if it was like in between. It seemed to be like in his era where he wasn't saying no to anything, so which is still that era, but it never stopped being that. Yeah, we're still in the Nicolas Cage says no, doesn't say no to any job role era. So
Well, this is how Nicolas Cage stays out of prison.
yeah. But yeah, so yeah, this is where they contact the Roger Van Zant and try to sell his bonds back to him, which Van Zant agrees on the phone, like just kind of matter of factly. Then he tells Hugh, played by Henry Rollins, it just kind of shows up out of nowhere in this movie.
It's weird to see. Yeah, Henry Rollins did this a lot in the 90s.
Yeah.
He was just, here I am.
Yeah, he's a weird, captivating guy. Then it's like, he's like he's like this lead singer for kind of these like punk rock bands, and then he has like this like spoken poetry thing that seemed to captivate people in the '90s, and he was just on MTV all the time, and then um
He's still doing stuff kind of like that.
yeah. um so Nate gives the info to get the money for the bearer bonds. Then we cut to Neil gets home to Chris sleeping on the floor with a gun. So this is really what shows like how empty Neil's life is, that he doesn't even have like a place for Chris to sleep. There's probably a bed somewhere, but I guess Chris doesn't want to sleep in Neil's bed, and then there's no like couch or anything, so he just lays on the floor. um Neil calls Charlene to tell him like where her husband is. I think also, is Chris drunk here, or is he just like groggy? I can't remember.
I think he's drunk.
Okay. Neil and Chris talk. Here's where you learn that Chris blew a bunch of money gambling on like the Super Bowl. Which I'm trying to remember. This probably would have been like when Dallas was winning a bunch of Super Bowls.
I think so, yeah.
Um, but this isn't too far from when was it like 88 to like 92 or something, when the Bills like blew 4 Super Bowls in a row.
Could be.
I gotta see a documentary on that, because I always heard about that, and that seems crazy to me. Like, man,
Yeah, that's what Grayson talked to me about once. Is like, so we're talking about the Lions going to the Super Bowl someday. And he's like, oh yeah, like Bills did that a bunch too. It was like one of the weirdest things in sports. It's like, how many times in a row can you go and not? They hold the record.
yeah, it's like everybody knows how hard is it to get to the Super Bowl. Really hard, because like anything can happen. Somebody can like break a leg or whatever will happen. And it's like, all right, you get four chances of it. You gotta win one. Like, no. In fact, what if you lost 4 in a row? And here's the thing: I can't even tell you what the teams that beat them. So I don't.
I just remember they lost 4 times. I don't know who.
I think maybe like Chicago won one of those.
That could be.
I can't remember. I think, yeah, because they won like one Super Bowl in like the '80s, and then they've been trying to chase that high ever since. Okay, so here's the famous. Okay, so here's something that I realized this time around. Like the whole like his like Neil's whole ethos about like don't ever get into something you can't walk away in 30 seconds.
Yeah.
So I always thought that like was his philosophy. But here he's saying, do you remember Jimmy McElwain from prison? This is Jimmy's philosophy that Neil has co-opted.
Oh, okay.
Jimmy's philosophy is, you want to make moves on the street, have no attachment, allow nothing to be in your life that you cannot walk away from in 30 seconds flat if you spot the heat coming around the corner. So this isn't even Neil's philosophy, which I didn't realize until his viewing, because that's what he's known for. He says this line like 2 different times in this movie.
Yeah.
And it's just like philosophy from a fellow prisoner, which like there are a lot of like everybody knows everybody from prison in this movie, at least on the criminal side.
Oh yeah.
But I just thought that was interesting because I didn't that because like because do you even remember that, like him mentioning that like this is some other guy's philosophy, or do you just always absorbed it as his philosophy?
No, I think I remember like it was, yeah, I do remember he got it from somebody else, but I thought there was a further story to like, oh yeah, that guy died, or it didn't work for him for some, but that didn't end up being the case. I knew it was from somebody else, but he was like, you see, he failed and I'm not. That's why I'm saying this. But when I watched the movie this time, it's like, no, this is just a little jailhouse wisdom.
Yeah.
That of course, like, but everyone fails. It's like that's the weakness in this line of work.
Yeah.
Is you can't You are gonna you
The,
want some kind of human
there's
connection.
always gonna be heat around the corner.
Never can walk away that quick. Or you always think, no, I just got to do this one thing, this one more thing, one
Yeah.
more thing. I'm out. It never happens. You just end up being dead.
But weirdly, in L.A. Takedown, it is McLaren's philosophy. It's his. He doesn't
Yeah.
have somebody. He didn't get him from prison. But the time's different. It's like a minute. So I don't know why. I don't know why. I don't know why Michael Mann thought like the 30 seconds different was important, but he did. Maybe he just thought 30 seconds sounded like more intense, and like that's not a lot
Yeah.
of time to make a life decision on. So, Chris is worried his wife is going to leave him. Which was, yeah, if he's being an asshole like this, yeah, she will. But
Yeah. If you're gambling all our money away all the time, well, guess what? It's not. And I'm just some harpy who wants money to start my real estate empire. Get out there and shoot more people.
I know you executed a man today. Come on. I don't know. That doesn't seem to bother these guys at all.
No, these guys really aren't bothered. That's the cost of doing business.
Then we cut to Donald, played by Dennis Haysbert, who's just like, I guess is a really interesting role to, because for some reason in my mind, like I always knew this whole like kind of side story with the cook that's being taken advantage of by the system, because he just got out of prison. But I thought for some reason in my mind he was always the wheelman on this job, but not that he was just a happenstance. Like, hey, I know you. You want to be the wheelman? um, yeah. He's recently got out of prison. He's looking for a job. His parole officer totally fucked him over with a boss that's going to either steal from him or send him back to prison. So
yeah,
that's
yeah, he's working at one of the infamous Los Angeles diners.
Yeah. Which this is like, I don't know, probably maybe the first time I ever thought of this, but this is where you realize like once you're a criminal, you're always a criminal, because this is what's gonna, like, either people aren't gonna give you a chance, or you're the only way you're gonna make money is going back to crime.
Well, yeah, so one guy explained there was this one crude philosophy. It's like you're either fucking or you're being fucked. It's like that's the whole world of being a criminal.
Yeah.
It's like that's it. There's no like nice there's no like nice pension and retirement for the ex-cons.
Yeah. Yeah, because like in the crime and punishment portion, like we actually don't believe in rehabilitation. We just want punishment for life.
Yeah.
So
We just want eternal punishment. This guy's being screwed over. Well, he's a con. Who cares? I mean, why was he born poor? Why did he do that? Why did he allow that to happen? We never have any introspection into that.
Yeah, and like these are people either doing like low level crimes or selling drugs, and it's like you might as well have killed something for how you're going to be treated for the rest of your life. So.
Weirdly, though, I will tell you, it's like these are the guys that got caught.
Yeah.
Known a lot of criminals in my life. Very few of them have gotten caught, but they are criminals nonetheless. I mean, they make a majority of their income is from illegal activities.
Yeah.
It's just, again, drugs draw a lot of attention. Everything else is kind of, But with the cost of everything going up, everything's becoming a major crime now.
Let's see. Then we have Neil calls Van Zant to talk to him to like give drop off details. There's Neil spots Charlene at a hotel with some guy, and then so he goes and confronts her, and he gives her an option to either like give Chris one last chance or just leave. And I wasn't sure. It was like, okay, so you said like they're building her real estate empire. I thought she was like hooking here or something. I didn't know. It's like, what? Do you know what's going on here?
No, I actually don't know what she's doing. She just kind of played it as like one of those. She struck me as one of those shrill real estate wives.
Yeah.
I have no insight into that. I'm just trying to assign, like, I don't know. She's just a selfish person.
Yeah.
Well, they're both selfish people, really, but they're just they're at the end of a failing life that's not working out. Neither one of them are happy.
No.
So, ever. no one's happy all the time, but if you're never happy, well, this is when you start like screwing around on each other and
Yeah.
stuff. That's when the marriage is either over or reconcile, one of the two.
It's like they want to be together, but they don't want to work on like making that happen. They just want to like, hey, you're here, I'm here, and things are working out. But I don't want
Well,
to
they
do
want
anything.
the illusion of being together.
Yeah.
They're remembering a time that no longer exists for either of them.
Yeah.
So they're kind of.
We should blame our child. He's like, yeah, you're right. Let's be resentful towards them.
I know we could do. We could make our new focus fucking the kids up. I'm good nuts because our lives didn't work out. So why not?
You're never gonna be as good as me.
Just start right in.
um, then we cut to Hannah meets with Richard, played by Tone Loc.
Which is interesting. Yeah, he just shows up.
Yeah, who probably.
And we know by his voice.
Yeah, and he probably. I think the last thing he would have been in, like, I think the year before was Ace Ventura: Pet Detective. So he's kind of around. And, yeah, got a great voice, but yeah. Richard wants Hannah to fuck over his competition, so the other Chop Chop crews, so for the info he has. And Richard starts talking about a guy he met in prison, which at first I thought he was talking about Waingro, but he's actually talking about Michael, now I'm forgetting his name, Tom Sizemore character.
Yeah.
So like he was talking about how like usually he's very braggadocious about stuff, but now he's been quiet, so he knows like, oh, he got on some like real, or am I doing that, or did I get that backward? But yeah, he says he tells Hannah that his name's Sharito, so that's when like, okay, so he's either, I can't remember, it was either his bragging or lack of bragging that made him like, oh, I bet he did that job because he's a guy that seeks like,
Yeah, he's kind of a loudmouth character.
yeah.
Or at least that's what he says.
Well, he says he's like a, what does he say? He's like a adrenaline junkie. That's what he says.
Yeah, yeah.
So like, but he says like when he gets excited, I think he says he gets quiet. So that's when he knew like something big was happening because he usually doesn't shut up. So, I don't know. Which makes it sound like Michael just got released from prison. So I have no idea, or if he just met him. Or is he
Not sure.
He knew him from prison, and he just met him out on the outside, and for some reason they were talking, and so yeah.
Yeah, it seemed like something that was like an affiliation from prison that led into real life somehow, but we're not. It's like were they just hanging out in a bar? You don't know.
Yeah. Then we cut to Neil's at an abandoned drive-in theater. A truck pulls up with a package in the window. And we see a guy sneaks around back, or like, oh yeah, like, also Neil's like he's like in a station wagon or something. He's parked there. And he's trying to instruct the guy how to like throw the package into the car. And then a guy sneaks out of the back of the truck. The driver throws the package into the car, and then Chris is in a sniper position providing backup, and so he shoots that guy. Neil backs up the car into the ambusher and like runs him over and shoots him. Michael kills the guy in the truck with a. I thought this was a different part, but this is another famous shotgun in this movie, the Benelli M3. This is what Michael's using here, which
Benelli M3 Super 90.
Which also, like, because I remember, like, the cool thing about the Spaz 12, which not only being, like, one of the coolest looking shotguns, is it had a mode you can switch between semi-auto or pump action. Yep. Which that was for police usage, where you're like putting some weird round in there that you can't cycle it normally. So you put it in pump action mode. And so this is another shotgun that can do that, which I don't think they make it anymore. So I don't know if anybody makes these convertible shotguns anymore, but they always seem cool in theory, but they don't seem to actually make it. They don't seem to have like a market value to them that succeeds. So.
Yeah, you're probably like, I don't know. It's probably you're probably paying double the price for having two systems.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, they still make it actually.
Oh, they do? Okay.
$1,300.
Oh, that's that seems like a steal. It's compared to like the Benelli N4, which is like $1,800 or $2,000 sometimes. That's like the
specifications. Because I'm on their page. Yeah, there's the. Yeah, that was the other one. Yeah, that's $1,800. Oh wait, no, that's an M3. Okay, no, this is a Super 90. Yeah, they don't make that anymore. Okay, that's what I thought. I was looking at the wrong thing.
Because I thought the Wes Studi character had it because he uses it when he blows the door hinges off, but that he just had like a Remington 870 there. So I thought that was when they're. I thought that's because I remember the Benelli M3s in this movie, but it's actually just right here. Because these guys they use the guns once and they get rid of them, so they'll have different weapons throughout this entire movie every time they use it. So which makes sense. So
Okay, the reason this exists this way is so rubber bullets and less than lethal rounds do not generate the recoil to operate the gun in semi-auto.
yeah,
So yeah, so you use semi-auto when you're using buckshot and stuff,
yeah,
and you use the pump when you're
shooting
trying not to.
beanbag rounds and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay, didn't know that.
yeah,
Cool.
yeah. In theory, that's supposed to be what they use for, but I guess they weren't successful enough, or police departments didn't buy them in droves.
Well, probably because you can buy an 870 for $500.
Yeah,
That's,
just give everybody a pump action. So
yeah,
yeah,
it's do a fine job.
fine job for a third of the price.
It's going to do the same thing, and you can fire anything you want.
So that's what we, looking up these weapon prices for like these semi-auto like police shotguns, like skewed me to what shotguns actually cost, because I thought like they're basically the same cost as like rifles, and it's like, oh wait, no, like shotguns are dirt cheap, they're even cheaper than handguns in a lot of cases.
Yeah, it's just a blunderbuss, and I love them. I think they're cool. Just because they get the job done in any scenario I could imagine.
Yeah.
I'm probably going to get one shot if I'm lucky. So I want it to be 12 gauge buckshot. That's going to get it done. I'm not going to be like shooting at someone 1,000 yards away with a sniper right on me, where that's going to happen for me. So,
I forget what Chris has in this. He's got some like one of those whatever like the MP5 is based on, but like the bigger version of it. It's firing like a rifle round. It's like those delayed blowback rifles or whatever.
Like, his tripod weapon.
Yeah.
Yeah. Where is that? That's coming up in this.
It's like an HK 550 or something like that, or was it like a SIG or something like that? I thought it was an HK one, but.
Let's see.
Yeah, we focus on this in Michael Mann movies because if there's a gun in a Michael Mann movie, he probably looked at it and considered it like way too long.
He was using an H&K 91A2.
Okay.
Which is a bipod.
Okay. So they kill those two guys. They open up the package and it's just paper, and so then they go to. They go to like a restaurant and like into the kitchen and use a payphone or something.
Something like that, yeah.
So Neil calls up Van Zant, which he's like scared immediately when he like hears Neil's voice on the other end. He's like, and Neil's just like, you can forget about the money, which makes Van Zant even more afraid. He's like, hey, wait a minute, no one's gonna forget about the money. He's like, yeah, you can forget about the money because I'm talking to a dead man on the other end of this phone here, and then basically Van Zant shits his pants for the rest of the movie. So, because Van Zant like tries to like the reason like he tries to put this hit on Neil is because he doesn't want like word to get out that you can just rip him off. So like this is his pushback, and then now it's not going to work out in his favor. So he realizes he's not like a criminal. Well, he's not like a violent criminal enterprise. He's just a criminal businessman.
Yeah.
Which is an oxymoron. They're the same thing. Then we have it's a family get together with all the criminal families. Except Neil, who doesn't have one. So, like, all these guys have, like, wives and stuff. We don't know what Sharito's life's like, but we know what, Chris's life is falling apart. But here they're putting on airs, Yeah, everything's fine. Neil leaves the table to go to call Edie because, like, him being around people with their families is making him anxious. It's like, I guess maybe I should have that towards the end of my life.
Yeah.
He's having his midlife crisis. Um, Neil asks if he can come over. She says yes. I think here she even calls him Neil. So it's like, so they've probably had the discussion in the interim where he lied about what his name is, or the movie forgot about that. I'm not sure. I figure that'd be something Michael Mann would, but as everyone's leaving dinner, we see the detectives watching them from the roof. Everyone has a rap sheet except for Neil, which is interesting because we know he's been to prison. So, but I guess maybe he changed his name or something. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I'm assuming he's operating under a different identity. That's what I always thought.
Um, well, also it's I guess it's not weird, but it makes sense for the movie. But like, I figure like a group like this, they wouldn't be doing crimes in the city they live in.
Yeah.
But oh well. um. Oh yeah, this I forget. I looked this up because a rap sheet actually has a name. It's like arrest. What was it? Because actually, I always heard the term, but I actually didn't know what it means. It's like what do they call it? Arrest. Oh, record of arrest and prosecutions. That's what rap means.
Oh, I totally didn't know that.
Yeah, it's just a phrase I heard, and I didn't until I looked. I was like, what does that actually mean? So, um, because I didn't because when I was writing my notes, I was like, do I write RAP or do I write WRAP? And I was like, well, what's the origin of it? And it's like that's the origin of
I learned something. And
it.
I never thought of that before.
I don't know. There's like I always there's that and like there's that one show they all call them unsubs, and I always forget what that means. Is that unidentified subject or something like that?
Oh, okay.
I think. Well, now I have to ask what does unsub mean? Yeah, unknown subject. Okay. Um, and then the other. What's now? I'm forgetting the other one. It's in police shows. Oh, wait. You put out like an all points bulletin.
Uh huh.
Um, and so, but yeah, they always use the short term. Was it like put out an APB on the guy? So that's what that means, an all points bulletin. Which I guess I still don't know what that means, other than tell everybody this is what's going on.
That's what I assume.
And that probably just goes back to like older communication days where you'd like wire some information to somebody and then that gets printed up on a bulletin and that gets put up on a bulletin board or something like that. I don't know, I'll have to look at that. Anyways, I have to keep going. um, let's see here. Yeah, so the detectives are watching them from the roof. The cops bug their cars and Chris's phone because they were able to get into his house to bug his phone. I can't remember why. Then we cut to Wangro's hired a black sex worker. He's got Nazi tattoos, so you're always like, well, this doesn't probably mix together, does it? He gets creepy and then leaps at the girl. And then we cut to Wangro's at a bar and he's looking for a job. So even though he has like a a master criminal group that's willing to kill him, he's still hanging around LA looking for work. So um um and then we cut to it's family night with the detectives and their families, and then Hannah gets a page for a homicide, which this kind of shows like how his job interrupts his life, and like that's why his wife's mad with him. But then he's like, well, somebody's got to do this job because I'm the only one that can do it. So, but that's what all people in Michael Mann movies think, that they're the only people that can do the job. So,
Yeah.
Hannah shows up on the scene. There's a body of the sex worker on the ground, but forensics has a photo of how they found her like dumped naked in a trash can. It's like, well, that's yeah, they didn't really care about her. So, they say that she died from blunt force trauma. They're saying this also might be a series of homicides, so they might have a serial killer on the hand. We just know it's Wayne Gross. Apparently, he's just been off killing hookers. Um, and then like the mother's kind of screaming in the background, so Hannah has like a real weird moment where he's like embracing her and like telling her it's like, well, I can't remember what he said. He's not saying it's gonna be okay. He's just saying like I think, or something like that. It's a very weird scene because you feel like in those scenes like, yeah, it'd be something like, I'll promise I'll find who killed her, but he probably knows like how these things turned up, and he's like, yeah, I'm not gonna say that to her. So, um, then we cut to Hannah comes back to Justine, who just wants to know like why he had to leave, and so they argue about their lacking communications and them being different people. Uh, then we cut to Donald, who's trying to hold things together, and Lily, his wife or his girlfriend or whatever, is like sticking with him because he's just like, he just wants to go back to crime because it's what he knows, and he won't feel being like he's being exploited then. So, because now he's working in the system of rehabilitation, and it's not working for him whatsoever. So, um, then we cut to Neil spends time with Edie and decides he's willing to be vulnerable with her. So he's like, now he's starting to like, yeah, starting to make plans, but almost like basically like proposes to her in a way.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, you want to be my girlfriend, but you know, like with me, that's more intense. So it's almost like a, you know, like we're married, but um, then we cut to it's morning. Uh, it's Lauren sitting on a bench, and then Hannah picks her up, and she just said she wanted to be alone. This is a weird scene. Just a teenager sitting on a bench in L.A. It's like, that's a Target, isn't that? But whatever.
Yeah. Doesn't seem like
I don't know. I don't live in L.A. Maybe people do that. Then we cut to nighttime, and the cops are staking out the crew again. Chris breaks into a door. Michael climbs up a phone pole. He's got like some like laptop comm gear that's going on here. This stuff looks cool. I've never seen. Have you seen this stuff before? I've never seen it before.
no, I've not seen this. Some of the phone stuff looks interesting. I've seen stuff like that before.
Yeah,
but not used this way.
I have to imagine this is all real because it's Michael Mann doing it. So,
Oh yeah,
the cops are ready. Yeah, this is like, I forget. This is some like rare. What is it? Not. Yeah, they're basically just like stealing like gold and silver and stuff, right?
yes,
I forget. This is like some depot. It's called like a materials depot or something like. I can't remember what it's called. It's literally what Michael went to jail for.
yeah,
And this is his job. This is the job he set up. It's like, yeah, let's just rob this place again. It's like what he went to jail for, which I didn't learn. I didn't pick up on until watching this. Until watching it this time, it's like, wait, what are we doing here? But that's kind of why I guess that's why Michael's a bit more desperate later on, is because like this was his job and they had to abandon it. So it's like, because like yeah, because the bank job is the next job, which now that they know that they have the heat on him, they're like he's trying to tell Chris, or she's trying to tell Michael like, yeah, you don't want to do this, but because they had to bail on this job, he's more desperate for it. So yeah, the cops are ready to ambush. Neil and Chris enter the warehouse with a rolling case. Neil waits outside while Chris like drills some safe. One of the cops like they have like this anxious cop inside this, because all the cops are like hanging out inside these like what do you call those? Not transport truck, but like a box truck, and they're just
yeah.
And there's like one anxious cop who has like has an M16 on his back, and he kind of like scrapes the M16 against the side of the truck, and then that, because it's like completely silent out, like Neil hears that immediately, and then they have him like staring at like the infrared cameras, but he can't see the camera. He's just suspicious, and he's like, all right, and then Neil calls off the job, and then so everybody walks out of there.
Yeah, it's a very cool like predator scene.
um, this really pisses off Hannah, because now the SWAT guy's like, well, yeah, let's just take them. They just broke into a place, like they're committing a crime, and then Hannah's like, yeah, fuck, they're gonna get let off for like 3 months. Like, no, like we're gonna catch him for doing major crimes. Um, and I'm guessing because literally see them be professional and good at their jobs, that like, oh, these are the guys that killed those uh those bank guards.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, it seems like, yeah, I don't know. It kind of seems like that's getting forgotten. They just want to catch them doing a crime, but there's never like a, yeah, we're gonna pin those murders on them. That just kind of like dissipates for the rest of the movie. But that's what they're supposed to be doing. um, so yeah, then we cut to the crew have a meeting about how they got heat on them. They hold a vote on whether they're gonna still do the bank job or not. Everybody like says they're gonna do it. Neil tries to convince Michael not to do the job, but he says he's in. Trejo's in. We cut to Hannah's in Las Vegas to go after Alan. This is Hank Azaria, who's like the voice of um, Homer Simpson. Oh no, not Homer. What voices does he do?
Chief Wiggins and
He does a bunch of voices on The Simpsons.
Sia Poo.
I think so. Yeah, yeah. Unless they unless they took that away from him for being.
Oh yeah, they might have got rid of him.
um, but yeah, he's one of the famous voice actors from The Simpsons. But he's been in a bunch of stuff too. He's had his own TV show a couple times too. Um, but he's just like some Vegas real estate guy or something, or whatever. They want info through Charlene because she's the guy that he was with, like when at the hotel. And so they're trying to get to Chris through Charlene, and apparently Alan here has like an arrest warrant in New Jersey, and so they're holding that over him so that he'll roll over on Charlene. So like at any time they can just like hand him over to to Jersey. Um, then we cut to the crews going over like escape routes and details while the cops watch. They're just kind of like on a where are they at, like a ship, like a ship, no, not shipyard, what do you call that?
Yeah, it's like a dock, like a loading.
Dock. Yeah, it's a loading dock. Which like I guess the cops are kind of like mystified by like why they're doing that, and so yeah, they move out, and then the cops move into the spot they were just at, and this is where Hannah realizes that they've been had, and so now like actually the crew has been turned around on them, so now they're watching the cops. So now they're getting like details on who the cops are, which I think they go to Nate, and Nate just has information on everything. It's like, oh yeah, this guy's this guy's legit. You can't just bribe him to get out of this. He's gonna chase you down. This guy's lost 3 marriages trying to do the right thing. Then we cut to Neil's going over blueprints, electrical schematics. This is for the bank job. Nate gives Neil a dossier on Hannah. Says he's a good cop and he was in the Marine Corps. So that's where he learned that they're both Marines. We cut to Hannah gets home to Justine getting ready to go out without him. I guess it's some ploy to let him know that he's losing her. Hannah thinks about doing the dishes, but then he decides to just go back to work. So I don't know. I don't know if this is a 90s thing. It's like a man doing dishes. Like, hell no.
That's not happening.
And then suddenly Hannah's on like a police helicopter chasing after Neil in the middle of the night. This is where we get Moby's version of New Dawn's Fades plays, which I like the song. I probably like the Joy Division song better, but that's a bit lo-fi for this movie. So
Right. Yeah. I don't know.
Then Hannah gets a car from another cop and just like takes the car and follows Neil. Hannah pulls Neil over. They both have like guns ready. See like who's gonna do what. And then Anna just asks Neil out for a cup of coffee. So they go to a diner and have a philosophical discussion about like their lifestyles. Apparently this is some famous diner. I'm not sure, or an infamous diner. because they're talking about something about like this is like a real place in LA where like basically like police officers and criminals kind of like have like a neutral zone at this coffee shop or something.
Huh.
I doubt that's real. That's something I read in the trivia that I have no idea whether it's true or not. Like,
Sounds like a nice idea.
I mean, if that place exists, Michael Mann would probably know about it. So I don't know. um. Yeah, and Hannah explains how his life is shit because he's too good at his job, or he just spends too much time doing it. Here's where he says, like, I don't know how to do anything else, and then that's what then uh, Neil replies back, neither do I. Um, is that all the notes I have for this scene? Oh, Nathan, do you have any other notes for this scene? It's a famous
No,
scene.
that pretty much encapsulates it. I mean, they're two guys that are kind of like, that they're in the end of their careers,
Yeah.
and they know it, and they can't stop being who they are.
Yeah.
And there's like no power of persuasion one will have over the other.
Yeah.
And that's kind of where I left it, is like these are just two forces of nature that are going to collide at some point. This is just the preamble for that.
Is this where he dumps off the philosophy again that, like, don't get anything you can't walk away from in 30 seconds flat?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. I think he delivers that like looking sideways at Al Pacino.
Yeah.
Not looking straight at him, like maybe he doesn't even believe it. I know there's some with the body language in this scene that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
Seems deliberate upon reviewing it. It's like they're two people talking past each other, obviously.
Well, I think
like generally.
I think if I read this right, I think they did something deliberate where they didn't rehearse this scene, so this is the first time them reciting this dialogue to each other.
Okay, so that why they didn't have the perfect body language and the like eye contact and all that. Okay, that's
It's like, yeah, well, these guys are two of the best actors in the world. Let's see what happens if we just let them go. So.
And if you're used to a bunch of curated scenes, it seems like a weird scene, but then you find out that and it's like, well, that's why, because this is how people actually talk. I don't always have like great pauses in all my speeches when I'm just meeting strangers.
Yeah, I don't know how like De Niro works. I know that like the way Pacino usually works is that he has a lot of energy for the first couple takes and then it's gone. So he doesn't like doing a lot of takes because the energy's gone by like the fourth take. And then like did he never work for Kubrick, did he? I don't think so. Okay.
See that leading to violence on set.
But yeah, I mean, yeah, you watch Pacino's performances and like, yeah, imagine him doing those yelling scenes like more than 5 times. It's like, yeah, it's not happening.
Yeah, you wouldn't be able to talk. Be delivering. Why are you doing Godfather dialogue? Because I keep talking. I've been yelling like an asshole.
Hannah gets back to the department to find the crew has dumped all their surveillance all at the same time. Which, it makes him mad. It's like, how can that happen? It's like, I don't know, the professionals like this.
Yeah, they all just basically disappeared simultaneously.
Then we cut to the crews breaking in through a concrete like block to get to a telecom box, which is like they break through concrete in the ceiling to get to a comm box. Like, man, you gotta get like I've never seen that. I don't know if that shit's how that works, but I've never seen shit like that before. I've had to get to a comm box, and it's hard the right way. I don't know how you do it this way.
Yeah, I don't know how you don't destroy a bunch of stuff.
Exactly.
It's like, yeah, we're just gonna knock big blocks of masonite loose and let them fall free and hope they don't hit any of this sensitive equipment we're looking to hack into.
But yeah, it just that goes to their mythos of how professional they are. They can do it without breaking it. Then we cut to a restless Van Zant has Waingro brought in to work against Neil. Then we cut to the crews at a diner. Neil notices Donald working the grill, and then Trejo. This is where I have Trejo calls in and tells him that like to use a landline, and then this is where Trejo tells him that like he can't lose his tail, so like now they're down a guy, and so this is where Neil offers Donald a wheelman job just kind of out of the blue, and so he agrees, which I didn't realize until this viewing, like, oh, that's why this happens. So So then we had the bank job starts with the infamous PVC tubes banging music or whatever that. Dun, 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 dun,
Oh,
dun,
that's from the British techno composer Brian Eno.
dun.
Horse Marker. Yeah, he makes some very strange sounding music. He was one of the early electronica guys. He was doing stuff with David Bowie when David Bowie started.
Yeah.
So
Well, there's a video game that's basically nothing but like, hey, what if that bank robbery scene was an entire video game? It's called Payday, and they basically like remake this exact theme. But actually, I think it's better. It's a bit more charged and intentional. Where this is
okay.
a bit more langling, or yeah, lingers around.
This is like tension build up music.
Yeah,
Because when the bank robbery actually when the action starts, the music cuts off immediately.
yeah.
Oh,
The music is gunfire at that point.
yeah,
um,
yeah. I could play a sample of that. It's very memorable, but I won't.
yeah. Yeah, there's that, or you can look up the Payday version, which I believe is on Payday 1 soundtrack, and I believe it's called Gunmetal Gray. It's a great song. um, the crew are observing like the bank, and then they just put ski masks on, which is like, yeah, that doesn't seem like sketchy. And then they assault all the security guards and disarm them. Here's Neil's like walking on top of like the bank counter, giving a speech to the customers that like they're not stealing their money, they're stealing the bank's money, and your money's all insured by the FDIC. Um, and then Neil's talking to like a bank manager, and he basically beats a key out of him because like, oh, I don't know what you're talking about. And he punches him in the face. He's like, okay, here's the key.
Yeah, he breaks his nose with the butt of a gun.
Yeah. And then we see Chris is like putting money in a bag that they brought him, like a giant duffel bag. He has to like slice the bag of money open so it's like better fits in the in the duffel
So you can
bag.
just pour it in because it's like vacuum packed.
Yeah. This is a movie that really depicts like how much a lot of money is heavy.
Very heavy. And they're robbing a bank in LA, I'm assuming in the spring and summer, so they're going to be miserably hot and firing guns and everything.
They got
else.
body armor on.
That would be terrible.
Yeah, and their suits so they can cover up their rifles. Yeah, which I think I think both Chris and Neil have like M4s, and then like Michael has like a paratrooper Galil rifle.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, they're using Colt Model 733s, which actually predate the M4.
Oh, okay. All right.
Because this is kind of the late 80s, early 90s era of guns.
Okay.
So, not that that's important or anyone to know. Most people will be like, oh, it's an M16. You know,
Yeah.
that's all you need to know.
Yeah, in my eyes, it's a short M16, so that's the M4, which is, I guess, not accurate. So
This is an M6. This is basically a compact M16 with 11.5 inch barrels.
Okay.
It's called the Colt Model 733. It lasted, well, it's what the M4 replaced.
Yeah.
So,
the cops get a tip from Hugh, which I also didn't realize this because now I wrote down who Hugh was. That's Henry Lawns. That's Van Zant's guy. So he's the guy that tips off the cops that they're robbing the bank here. So that's how the cops get info to come to the bank. Because otherwise they had no idea that this was going on. So the cops roll out to the bank. Michael gets to the getaway car and hops in. Neil and Chris are making their way out to the bank, and then the detectives are kind of like moving in on the car. And just as Chris makes it to the car, he spots some detectives and they start shooting. And this
is when the music cuts off. And this is when the loudest gunfire ever recorded. They actually enhanced the sound of the guns for this movie.
Yeah.
Because they were firing, I think in a canyon somewhere is how they got, because they even got the echoing off the buildings right, because they had recordings of fully automatic weapons being fired in like a gorge somewhere, I heard.
Yeah.
And that's what one thing they get right in this movie is just like the heat and the power of actually doing something like that. It's really like well played in this movie. It's like, oh, that would just be terrifying
Yeah.
to just fire just fully automatic weapons down a street full of people, uh, just with no regard for anything.
Yeah, and this is like,
And they're not like trying to kill civilians or anything, but they're just in a running gun battle with police with fully automatic weapons,
yeah,
which is like never really happened in America until
the
like the
North
North
Hollywood.
Hollywood,
Yeah.
which inspired by this movie. So
Well, I mean, that's like they like here, like the bank robbers. They're just like firing to get away, but they aren't caring about like any civilians, which is like why ultimately why the cops are outgunned is because they're trying to not hit civilians, so they got to be careful with their shots because they all have like weapons that'll go right through body armor. But they can't just like open fire on these guys.
well, I guess like Al Pacino had the FN. It was the paratrooper model that was the 5.6 caliber,
Yeah,
and it was full auto capable, but they said only shoot semi-auto because cops would only shoot semi-auto. They wouldn't just spray fire down the street
yeah,
because they don't want to hit like civilians and stuff. And if you pay attention to the movie, he's only firing in semi-auto. And I think he reloads it like 3 times. That was another thing I liked in this movie. They showed people reloading guns almost constantly.
yeah.
Like they were just running, reloading. The other guy would shoot. The other guy would reload.
Duck behind cover, reload, change mag, get back
They're
up.
not just standing out there to be shot.
But yeah, there's also the Mythos trivia that they use like the Val Kilmer changing mags as like training for various places. I don't know how much it's true, but whatever.
Who was the some guy from the SAS was the trainer for this movie.
Okay.
So they learned this stuff from like a British, what are those, paratroopers, special air service,
Yeah.
like their Delta Force
Yeah,
essentially.
Yeah.
That's where they learned. Supposedly, that's where they learned to do all this stuff.
But yeah, with Al Pacino character, I think they didn't give him full auto because I don't think he could handle it. But character, you can make a reasoning that if he's a Marine, like we're usually shot to train shoot semi-auto anyway. So
Well, no, I guess Michael Mann told him it's like, oh, we don't want any cops doing full auto.
okay, that makes sense.
Cops wouldn't do that because they're not like, because they don't want to kill like everyone on the street.
But yeah, like
cops are supposed to be the good guys in this movie.
But in the Marine Corps, like typically, if you have the rifle, you want to make unless you're like need to like, oh, we're surrounded, and then just like unload everything. Like there's that. But otherwise, you want to like, your machine gunner's there to create covering fire by firing automatic fire, and then you are supposed to make careful semi-auto shots. And then also, when you're a Marine, you're supposed to, you're supposed to be in areas like forward of everybody else, and so you have no idea if you're ever going to be resupplied. So you better be careful with your shots.
I just don't like you spend 300 rounds of ammunition in a minute. It's like, well, that's it, man. Like your pack's really light now, but you don't have any bullets left.
Yeah, Donald almost gets shot. Yeah, they like a couple of people are in the car, but some people aren't. And Donald like gets away, like starts moving, but then he gets shot and killed almost immediately. Now the crew have to escape on foot. Yeah, they're just unloading full auto like rifles on like a line of police cars, and yeah, it just showing the power of it. It's just like windows exploding, people ducking. I don't think there's. Yeah, I think there's like I think there's just a lot of bullet holes. I don't think they have anything blow up in this scene, do they? Or is it just
no?
It's just things shattering and.
Yeah, I think this movie's pretty realistic.
Yeah.
Like, so I don't even see a car on fire, which that could actually happen. They just don't usually explode.
Chris gets shot in the shoulder, and Neil goes over to assist him, which is maybe against his code. I'm not sure. Because I'm not sure if you're supposed to read that as a character moment where it's like, oh, he does care. And he could just get out of this and leave with the money, but he decides to help him out.
Yeah, I mean, they were ostensibly covering each other and working together. So
Yeah.
I guess you want to leave the man to bleed out on the streets.
Um,
Uh,
but yeah, they stick together, and then Michael kind of gets separated. Um, there's kind of a pause in the action as Neil moves out with Hannah. Or wait, what? Neil moves out. Oh yeah. Neil moves out and Hannah moves in. Neil steals a station wagon and escapes with Chris. So now they're gone out of the scene. And now the cops are chasing after Michael. Michael grabs a kid for cover, but Hannah's able to get behind Michael, and then like as he's like turning around, he takes him out with a headshot. And then Hannah gets the kid away from the body, which that's going to traumatize her for the rest of her
yeah. There's something warm on my neck. Don't look, honey.
So yeah, now he's dead. But yeah, it's like, it's kind of, it makes him seem like a coward or whatever, but he's desperate. But also there's like a thing where it makes him like, yeah, these aren't good guys. Even though you like these guys because they're professionals, they're not good people. So they remind you of that when he's grabbing a kid for a human shield.
And let's not forget that, like, Detective Bosco, played by the famous Ted Levine, he gets killed.
Oh yeah.
He took a shot to the neck.
Yeah, he's the. So
they killed at least one cop for sure. Probably a couple more in those cars.
I guess we have two Hannibal Lecter villains in this movie.
Yeah, it's weird.
Because he played Buffalo Bill.
Yep.
So I have that being the end of Act 2. So we have Act 3, and I remember this thinking this like, oh man, what a great movie. I don't remember this act being like overly long and poor. Or I guess just awkward. This is like the end of the Return of the King, where it just keeps ending and ending and ending.
Yeah. It does have that problem, especially after that bank shootout.
Yeah.
Okay, and now it's over. Nope, not yet.
Because it made me realize that like when I watch this movie, really what I do is I watch the opening scene and the bank robbery, and then I call it a day. But we cut to Lily sees Donald on the screen having been killed in a bank robbery, so now she's all distraught, and then like, all the effort we worked to get your life back together is all thrown away. Then we cut to Jeremy Piven, who's like a shady and like a veterinarian doctor providing care for Chris, which in the book, like this last, like him getting shot, like it's like almost like a month-long affair. So it's like, and even here it's like he is not well. And this is like, in most Hollywood movies, if he took a shot to the shoulder, it's like he'd be fine. But I guess in the book they more specifically say he got shot in the collarbone. So now he has a broken collarbone. He's bleeding out, and so now they stop him bleeding out. But now he's like very weak, and he's got a broken collarbone. And he's got to like now escape the police. So, which is maybe why he's able to get away later on, where he gives them like the photo. It's like because he looks like he's on death's door the next time you see him. And he has his hair chopped off too. So.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, I forgot he had the weird haircut too.
It was interesting seeing Jeremy Piven here because he's got like the, what do you call that, the widow's peak, where you set to bald like on this side, like these two parts, and then like maybe like 7 years later he's in, what's the HBO show they're in?
Oh, Entourage.
Yeah, Entourage. He seems to have a full head of hair, so yeah, he got some, yeah. And I don't know if he got plugs or if he just did some Rogaine or what, but yeah. Or maybe he just grew out his hair in a way, but Neil gives Chris the lowdown and suspects Trejo sold him out. Chris isn't very like alert at the moment. He's like, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Charlie calls Alan looking for help. Then we cut to Neil goes to Trejo's place to find him, and he finds Trejo like near death. Trejo tells him that like that they all got sold out by Wangro and Van Zant. Trejo says he can't feel nothing, and his Anna's gone, which there was just a dead lady in a bedroom before he got there. So Trejo asked him to like ask for death, and so then Neil shoots him, which is just like, which is weird because he's like he came there to
Neil went there to shoot him anyway.
Yes.
He tried to trade him, and he's like, "Well, I guess I'm gonna have to shoot you. Anyway. It's better because you're asking." Kind of weird.
Yeah. Then we cut to Neil calls Nate looking. This is also another bad thing about this third act is like, man, it's like night and day like 7 times. It's like, wait, how much time has passed?
A week has gone by. But it doesn't seem like it. No one's acting like it. I think everyone's same clothes half the time.
Yeah.
It's like no one's showering.
So Neil calls Nate looking for updates on Wangro because now he wants revenge on Wangro. The cops raid Hugh's place looking for answers. This is Van Zant's guy, so they beat him up looking for answers. Well, I guess he tries to escape or resist, and so it's like, well, that gives them, resist a little bit, then you get the full force of the police department. So.
Yeah, just say no to one instruction. Shoot him in the knee.
Neil sneaks up on Van Zant looking for Rango, where she just like walks to his penthouse and throws a chair through his window, and then just walks up and they're like, it's like, where's Wangro? And he's like, I don't know, man. They just shoots Van Zant dead and walks out of there. So that's over with. That's handled. Then we cut to Alan brings Charlene to be sold out to the cops. Drucker kind of sits there and lays out the future for her son if she doesn't sell out Chris, which is basically like they're gonna put him in a foster home and then he'll be a criminal or whatever. It's like, I think he's gonna be a criminal anyways. Whatever.
Yeah, I don't think that like he was gonna go to private school, being a lecturer somewhere.
Then we cut to like Hannah, I think at the police department. He goes through everything that's happened with the crew and Wangro. So now everyone is converging on Wangro, who's like at an airport hotel.
Nothing nice ever happens at those.
I don't think I've ever been to an airport hotel.
Well, the airport's down the road from us, and it's like there's always every other weekend. It's like, oh, somebody got shot at the hotel, and it was always. I thought she wanted to have sex with me, and she said no, so I shot her. It's like, huh? What? Wait, what? It's like, huh?
That's Wangro thinking.
Yeah, oh no. Okay. It's like, yeah, it's now you get to go to prison.
Then we cut to Neil shows up at Edie's house. Like she's scared of Neil because she's like, hey, that was you robbing the bank, wasn't it? And he doesn't confirm that. But he's like, we got to get going. And now she's like a prisoner, but he doesn't realize like the fear that he's putting her through. He's like, come on, this makes sense, right? Yeah.
It's just business, honey. This is part of the game. Want to know about metallurgy? There you go.
So she runs off, and he kind of awkwardly chases her up a hill where she just stopped running. And then we cut to the next day. Neil gives her cash and instructions on how to get out of town. Neil still thinks he can work things out with Eddie, but she's not having it whatsoever. It's like he still doesn't understand that like she's his prisoner right now. He's like, no, come on, you're free or whatever. Hannah gets home to like the guy that his wife just slept with last night, which is interesting because this guy plays Wangro in L.A. Takedown.
Oh, okay.
All right. So yeah, they have this is another weird scene. He tells the guy to like sit down. He's like, you can fuck my wife, but you can't watch my TV. So he grabs the TV. They have a weird conversation about closure. Then we cut to Nate has an escape plan for Neil. Neil learns that Chris is out on his own. This is where suddenly everyone has a Camaro.
Yeah, they were big. They were big back then. They were making a comeback.
Were they? Okay. Because I was gonna ask you, like, are these cameras good? Because I kind of think they're shit.
No, they're not.
Okay.
That's why it didn't last very long.
I thought they looked bad, and I just didn't know if they actually were secretly good cars. But I don't know.
No, it's the same truck engine in them. They've had
Okay.
them since the 70s. Nothing had changed. It sounded loud.
um, and then we cut. Now it's nighttime again. Neil talks to Edie. Is back trying to like. Wait, no. Oh yeah, he talks to Edie. And he's like trying to convince her that she can choose to leave him or stay here or whatever. But he's not. You know, it's an illusion of choice. But I don't think she even gives him an answer.
That choice is already made. It's like, oh, I'm going to go live a life of crime. I don't think so.
Then we cut to Chris is showing up to meet Charlene, who's setting him up, but then Charlene goes out to the balcony to see Chris. He spots her and he makes a big smile, but then she makes like the slightest hand gesture to signify, which I don't know how the fuck you could see a hand gesture from that far away, but you know he's got great eyes. So.
He has some weird skills,
Yeah.
that's for sure.
I mean, it's a movie. You cut to the two images. The audiences see those images, so the characters see the images. So whatever it is.
Yeah. All that matters.
And so he picks up on that, and so he asks some guy about renting a place. They're playing a pickup basketball game at night. So then he gets back in the car and leaves. Drucker gives the call to grab him at the intersection, but then he has like a valid ID, so then they let him go, which that seems weird. But I guess it would make sense where it's like, you know, you got all these bodies, but not everybody has the same information or whatever. So this is just some SWAT guy. It's like, yeah, valid ID, so you know he's good to go. Because he doesn't know what Chris looks like.
Yeah, they're probably compartmentalizing this too, so not to contaminate it.
Yeah.
'Cause this is like the biggest crime story in Los Angeles at the time. Like everyone would be looking for these guys.
Yeah.
This would be all over the news, all over the world.
Yeah, and like again, like it seems like maybe like 4 days have passed now, but we have no idea. It seems like it's just been 2 hours ago. Hannah, we cut to Hannah's calling everyone on the phone looking for updates. Hannah leaves in anger to go to a hotel that he's like somehow, because I like this is the first time watching it, I realized oh, this is a hotel he went to like leave his life. And it's like, when does this happen, and why does Lauren know where his hotel is? So I have no idea how the fuck any of this works right now.
Yeah. The end of this movie's kind of abrupt and weird. I understand what they were trying to do, but man, it was a confluence of events.
Yeah. So he goes to a hotel. Oh, so yeah. Okay, he leaves the police department in anger, goes to his hotel to get a shower because he says he's going to. On his way, he pushes his TV out of the car and speeds away, like next to a bus stop.
I remember that scene.
Which I don't know what that signifies. I'm like, I thought he was like, hey, people, here's the TV. You look like you're taking the bus, so you're kind of down on your luck. But no, he's just like, let me litter in the bus lane. Like, I don't know what deeper meaning I'm supposed to pick up on here, other than it's just pathetic. You know, it's like, like the only thing he had was a TV, and so he decided to destroy that. So now the only thing he has is his job. Gotta priorities. Hannah gets to the hotel. He walks over wet carpet as he goes to the balcony, and then when he walks back, he notices the wet carpet. Goes in the bathroom and finds Laura, who's attempted suicide in the bathtub. He pulls her out of the tub and like tourniquets her arm and leg that she cut. Then we cut to the hospital. Justine's at the hospital. Hannah brings Lauren in where they get the doctors working on her. He's giving out a bunch of information for the doctors. And then ends up being like she's okay. Neil calls Nate for updates, and he gets info on Waingro. Neil tries to ignore the Waingro situation. Like I think he says like, yeah, I'm just gonna leave, but then he decides he can't, so he needs to go get revenge. Then we cut to Neil pulls to the back of the airport hotel and walks in. Like Edie's still with him. Neil gets Waingro's room number. He just like gets on the phone and like pretends to be somebody. Um, and he steals like a security jacket because he's in like the dry cleaning area of the hotel. Which, do they have dry cleaning areas in the hotel? Or are they?
I know they have laundry areas sometimes. They might have dry cleaning if
Uh,
there's a demand for it.
oh, yeah, maybe this is regular cleaning. I always associate dry cleaning with like you hang everything up in like those protective plastic things, but I don't know. Neil makes his way to the hotel and notices a shotgun at the counter, so he knows like that guy's a cop. So yeah, this when he sees that shotgun, he goes back and grabs the security jacket. He takes the elevator up and then he blocks the door and pulls a fire alarm. Um, we cut back to Hannah's at the hospital. And he's trying to console Justine some more. He gets a page, and they basically like break up here because he's got to go off to do his job. um, but yeah, she says something like, she like, what she says something like she went to you to go kill herself or something like that. Not that blunt, but something like that. It's like that's not like a great thing to tell him. It's like,
Yeah.
Yeah, this.
She loved you enough to kill herself in where you're living.
Yeah.
Thanks.
I can't remember. Oh, this might be back of the art. I forget. There's an argument they have. I forget where it's either like after he finds the dead sex worker, or if it's after like when she was cheating on him. But he talks about like the baby. Was it the baby in the microwave or something like that? Was it one of those stories like, this is why I don't tell you what I do at work?
Yeah, that's right. I do remember that.
But then we cut back to Wangro Revenge. Neil knocks on Wangro's door to get him to come out. Wangro approaches with caution and a gun. Neil busts open the door when Wangro kind of like cracks the door just a bit. And then he like beats him into the sofa and tells him to look at him, which Wangro hesitates to do. And as soon as Wangro looks him in the eyes, he shoots him in the chest and in the head. Like he shoots him in the chest and waits a moment to have him like that kind of like weird breathe where it's like like it's a horror movie or something.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Well, also he broke his nose, so that probably doesn't help. He shoots him in the head. This is actually like the end of in LA Takedown. This is where it ends. McLaren goes in there, shoots Wangro, comes out, and then he gets killed by the cops, and that's the end of LA Takedown. So it's a bit more extended here. Because Neil leaves, he gets held up by detectives. Neil disarms them and knocks him out. Hannah's now on the scene. And he's looking for Neil. Neil's walking towards the car where Edie is. This is another Camaro. He sees Hannah coming for him, and he looks Edie in the eye basically, and then just walks away from her, which she's like surprised by. Where it's like, Edie's getting what she's want, but she's still surprised that she would just leave. That he would just leave her. So, because now I guess at this point Neil's decided that he can't stand the heat, and he's got to get out of there. Hannah takes a shotgun from a uniformed police officer, then goes to chase after Neil. Neil goes running onto the airport runway. They have a firefight a bit around some like cargo containers or something. I'm not sure what's going on here. Hannah runs out of shotgun ammo, so then he just pulls out his pistol. Neil like retreats back to some structures to try to lay an ambush on Hannah. Hannah's about to walk into the ambush when like the runway lights turn on and give away Neil's position. Then Hannah's able to drop Neil there, and so Neil lays there dying. He says, "Told you I'm never going back," and then Hannah holds his hand as he dies, and then we have Moby play. So it's supposed to be like, it's kind of played like, oh, what a beautiful moment. It's like, it's kind of weird. So it's all up to you how you interpret this moment. Whether this is like, oh man, like he had to get him, or like it was reluctant. It's like, I don't know. Like he didn't murder a lot of like 3 people here. So
Well, then the camera pulls out this like beautiful shot of the airport.
yeah,
it's like that again, that blue over purple type.
yeah. I mean, this is the best moment of the third act. It's like, okay, you got here, that's worth it. Well, no, it's not worth it. There's a lot of weirdness in this third act, but that, yeah, that, but yeah, this is a cool ending for you're gonna have these guys face off in a firefight rather than a coffee shop. So,
Yeah, it makes sense.
um, but yeah, so that is Heat, one of the best action heist movies things. And then I didn't realize until this viewing had some flaws, but it's still like one of the best one of those. So
Yeah, it's not. I mean, you remember this movie for the action,
yeah,
and you know, again,
and
because
and great performances. So
great performances. Upon a second, third pass, maybe the dialogue isn't as cool, isn't as sharp as it should be. But I think there were creative choices that led to that.
yeah,
Which is, yeah, like you pointed out, there's some things I didn't know about that, just stuff I noticed upon this viewing. But let's be honest, everyone knows this viewing for the bank robbery scene, which is fine because no one's done anything like that before or since of that quality.
yeah,
There's the only thing that comes, the only thing that comes close is like some of the Matrix stuff just for being purely nuts. Like
yeah,
that was like, oh, that's fantasy fighting, whereas this is like, well, this isn't real, but it seems like close enough to reality to be frightening. Like I said, you can tell that those guns are hot and loud and scary, and these guys are in a desperate situation. That's all. Nothing seems cool or fun about it. It all seems vaguely frightening.
yeah.
It's like, oh, okay, this is where your decisions have led you. Here we go.
Takes place in a crowded city full.
Yeah, just firing guns around in a crowded city alone is a nightmare scenario.
um, I'm trying to think. But yeah, there's a Heat 2. So if you want like somewhat of a conclusion, like I said, like Chris getting shot in the collarbone is like a months-long process to recover from. So it's not a Hollywood bullet in the story of and the Heat 2 book is written by it's co-written by Michael Mann and some it's like Meg Grenier or something like that. She's done other kind of like um, thriller books. So
Oh, okay.
and like I said, they are pre-production for whatever that's worth on the Heat 2 movie. They got Adam Driver at least signed on because Michael Mann just worked for him on that Ferrari movie, so that makes sense. Um, he's that dude's an actual Marine, so if he's gonna be playing one of these characters, that'll make sense. So
Yeah, and he's coming off of Francis Ford Coppola's
Megalopolis.
self-financed $200 million.
Oh man, I want to see that. I hear bad things about it, but I was like, man, I gotta see what $200 million gets you nowadays.
Yeah, the guy like sold his vineyards or whatever. I don't know how much of that's nonsense and how much of that's true, but I know he's been shopping this around. Like, didn't he want Robin Williams to play the lead in this?
I don't know. I don't know. Maybe
Going on a long time.
I think the last movie he directed might have been Jack, which was that Robin Williams like
Okay,
movie. So that makes some sense.
because this movie's like it's like a fantasy and a reality thing. It kind of blurs.
It's like an American Grease or something like that.
Yeah,
Because there's a lot of like imagery that's like Grease affiliated and things like that, and there seems to be some weird like unreality reality stuff going on there. Um, I don't know. It's like I hear both things. I hear it's like it's bad, and then it's also got like a standing ovation at Cannes, which also doesn't mean anything. So, like French people just clap something if it's different, not because it's good.
yeah. It's just like, well, this is so unpretentiously beautiful, and it's like, and no, this is nothing but pretension. But
Yeah.
who knows?
Yeah, man.
Maybe it's
Man,
great.
I want to see what $200 million in freedom gets you.
I mean, I like to watch all kinds of weird movies for weird reasons.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, because I think the reason he basically stopped making movies is because he made so much money selling wine. Or it's like, yeah, I don't have to. Yeah, why do this when I can do
I have to
nothing?
keep that vigorous, miserable movie schedule.
Yeah,
When I can just do this and have fun.
I mean, he never really saw Lucas do anything again. He got like $6 billion, and he's not like, now I can do my passion project. He's like, you know what? I'd rather just like kind of chill.
I want to make it so the fans of Star Wars hate someone other than me.
Yeah, he made a strategic decision.
Yeah, it's like mission accomplished, George. They hate Disney more than you. The prequels are now looked on as a golden, the second golden
Hmm.
age of Star Wars. It's like, wow.
Well, they've done a wonderful job of recontextualizing those things. Like, actually, they're genius. It's like, no, they weren't. But the supplemental stuff is done by better. The supplemental stuff not done by Lucas does a better job of recontextualizing that stuff as not being as stupid as it is at its face value. So, um, did you ever see? Did you see the Ferrari movie?
Ford versus
No,
Ferrari?
no, just Ferrari, the Adam Driver Michael Mann movie.
No, I've never seen that.
Okay. um, but that's Michael Mann's latest movie. I think it's just called Ferrari, and Adam Driver plays Enzo. Is it Enzo Ferrari? Well, whoever started Ferrari. So,
Yeah.
um, and all the drivers he killed racing his cars. Yeah, because I remember like somebody had a quote when I was like learning about F1 where actually like Ferrari doesn't like to hire Italian drivers because they've killed so many drivers that it like hurts them more if they kill one of their own countrymen, so they hire a lot of like French and German drivers.
Oh, yeah. I haven't seen that one. I don't know why. It just slipped under my radar. I might watch it.
Yeah, I mean it was Michael Mann, but it's like sometimes Michael Mann, it's like I like your stuff, but I don't have I don't have 3 hours to watch this movie carefully, so maybe I won't watch it.
Oh, the last Michael Mann movie I really loved was Collateral.
Yeah.
Like that was the last one where I was like, wow, this is cool. Miami Vice was cool just because it had so many cool individual things in it,
Yeah.
but as a whole, it was not great.
Yeah, I don't. I think I have it on the docket sometime for the show. I hear the directors. I know I always say like I don't believe it when people say it, but this is the one people say the director's cut makes a difference for Miami Vice, but we'll have to see for ourselves. But I remember just watching it being like it was okay, but like some people have gone bought and they swear it's like a lot better than you remember it being or something like that. Public Enemies was I don't remember liking that too much. It was like it seemed like it would have been like the trailer was cool, but I don't remember the movie actually being cool.
I don't think I ever watched it because I didn't hear anything like that really made me want to see it. Because I know it's like Michael Mann directs it, and Johnny Depp and Christian Bale are in it. Like that sounds
Yeah, I
cool.
mean, it
But
just seems like it's gonna be heat, but like in the Roaring Twenties, which sounds cool, but it was. I remember it being kind of boring. Actually, I think the weirdest thing about it is because that was in Michael's Mann's like he's adopting digital photography early,
uh-huh.
so like the movies kind of have a weird digital look to them, where it's like whereas now like they have this now they have digital cameras that look exactly like film, so now it's not a problem. But this is still in the era where it's like you can tell it's digital film, and because it has that kind of like square artifacting on stuff. And so when you're shooting a historical movie with modern technology, it just comes off weird for no really good reason. It's like this really shouldn't affect me, but it does. Seeing the 20s through a camera that I know is a digital camera seems like that shouldn't be true, even though it shouldn't make a bit of difference, but it does somehow. So Um, then yeah, I can't remember what is his later stuff.
Well, I know I did something called Black Hat about computer
Oh
hackers.
yeah, that was Chris Hemsworth. I heard a lot of mixed things about that, but ultimately I didn't watch it because it was like,
I did watch it. It was
oh
terrible.
really? Okay.
Yeah,
Um,
was not good. And it wasn't the actor's fault either. And I mean, it looked cool and it had some cool ideas, but it's like they didn't have all their ideas down.
yeah.
And it's like, oh, okay, this doesn't make any sense.
Um. Oh yeah, he was a producer on Tokyo Vice. I hear that's good. I've never watched it. He was a producer on Ford versus Ferrari? Huh, okay. That's weird.
Yeah, I knew that.
So he just has a lot of Ferrari things in the bank. So.
That's a big part of the Ferrari story. That's when Ford almost bought him.
Yeah.
And then they destroyed each other in a duel.
Yeah, I've never seen Last of the Mohicans. Have you?
Yeah, it's a great movie.
Okay. I remember.
It's got,
oh, God.
let's see, Daniel Day-Lewis is
Okay.
in it. And there's a bunch of people in there you'd recognize. Madeline Stowe is in it.
Oh, he directed that after L.A. Takedown. Okay.
Yeah.
I remember there being Insider being good, but I don't really remember a lot of it. You said you really liked that movie, right?
Yeah, that's a cool movie.
I remember Ollie being okay.
I watched it once and was like, yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, I remember Black Hat. That heard bad things about that, and I actually heard mixed things about Ferrari, but I'll probably watch it at some point. Maybe I'll watch this. This long weekend. There's a bunch of movies streaming right now that I want to get. They got the Civil War movie out streaming. Well, you have to buy it, but I don't know what else. Well, they got Dune 2 out, so you can, or Part 2, so you can watch that now.
Yeah, I watched about a quarter of it last night, but then I got pulled away by other things. Now tomorrow I'm not doing a damn thing. I had a bunch of more garage stuff to do today, and I'm done with that. And I already mowed the lawn, so.
And at some point, I need to go watch that Furiosa movie.
Yeah, I think me and Grayson are going to do that Monday.
I might see it tomorrow. I don't know. I don't really want to fight the crowds.
Yeah, we're going to do it Monday during the day. I'm not going to a theater to get in a shootout around here.
I don't even know if I've read critical stuff about it. I'm just like, that's George Miller. It's got to be good.
Grayson said he heard it's insanely violent. It's like way more violent than Fury Road.
Huh. Okay.
I think it has a lower budget. And I think it has. I don't know what. I think it might be rated. Oh, the other one was rated R.
Yeah, I think the only one rated PG-13 was the third one.
Okay, but yeah, that's what he heard. So I'm like, yeah, that could be true. I don't know. Doesn't matter. I mean, it's a Mad Max movie. You know what you're getting.
Yeah.
You're not expecting oh, I thought they were just going to philosophically talk about their differences.
Yeah, I forgot we're talking about the movie Heat.
Yeah, we're talking about Heat.
Yeah, there's a couple video games, a lot of things Heat influences, but yeah, there's Kane versus Lynch. Definitely was influenced from this, and of course the Payday franchise. There's 3 of them. Although they're different, they're just bank robbery video games. It's like a 4-player co-op bank robbery, and that's all you do. There's not really a story to it. I mean, I guess technically there's a story to it, but that's all you do is, let's rob the bank again. And then the music is very cool and very reminiscent of that. The PVC. You were just striking a PVC tube. Dun, 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 dun.
I don't know how Brian Eno did that. Now I want to look it up. He might have actually done that because he makes music in weird ways.
Yeah. He's
one of those experimental musician guys.
Oh yeah, I haven't done this in a while. I forgot there's a whole lead out of what we do. We're sending a probe into space containing this supercut of scenes from the imperfect collection that is the Verhoeven Effect. Nathan, what scene from this movie are you chuck into the space?
Oh, we got to send the bank robbery scene. That's why everyone watches the bank robbery scene. There's one of them in high definition that has 5.5 million views on YouTube. And that's probably just since it was taken down the last time. I gotta say that's the scene.
Yeah. So we also find us on Letterboxd, username VHE, 1 out of 5 stars. What are we giving Heat?
Oh, we got to give it 5.
Okay.
Even though that's the third act is a little weird. And it doesn't always, it's not the most coherent movie. It's just so cool to watch. It's yeah, I don't care.
Yeah.
I don't notice.
I mean, you could say the weirdness is also them trying to do character stuff that most action movies wouldn't bother with. So they tried. It's just kind of weird because you're watching an action movie and they're like, wait, why are they trying to make us feel about these characters who are ultimately kind of awful?
There's people just fire into crowds. But, you know, it works.
Yeah. You can find us at verhoeveneffect.com. There we have listener support. You can listen to our monthly stipend either 99 cents, $4.99, or $9.99. You can rate our podcast on whatever platform of your choice. Remember, you know, the algorithm only listens to the highest rating. Remember, you control the algorithm doesn't control you. And you can find us at Twitter at Verhoeven Effect. You can find us on Blue Sky Social at Verhoeven Effect. You can find us on Facebook at Verhoeven Effect. And you can find us on YouTube at American Greed Fact. You can watch both this and that show live and unedited. So for the Verhoeven Effect podcast, I'm Conlon.
And I'm Nathan.
Goodbye, America.
Speaking of the algorithm.